It is 7 o'clock on August 19th, 2024. Let's bring this council meeting to order. Let's all stand for the pledge, please. Miss Wilson, could you please call the roll?
Poznanski,
Here.
Bartholomew,
Here.
Fowler,
Yes.
Kerr,
Here.
Edwards,
Here.
Parker,
Present.
Rosso. Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Let us move into our agenda here. We have approval of agenda. I do have one item to add that came in today. The board is familiar with our police grievance that we have with an officer or a past officer. There is an item to be considered. We don't necessarily need to go into closed session, so unless someone has a reason that they really think we should go into closed session, we're just going to add it under unfinished HIJKLMN. N.
PD grievance.
We can also eliminate G, it's a duplicate of F, just a little different wording.
Okay. Taking G, removing G from unfinished. And I do have, let me pass you your documentation right now for the police grievance. Should be enough. It's just one, just take one, it's front and back. It was a short couple emails. Do we have anything else to add or delete from the agenda? Hearing nothing,
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
motion by Kerr, support by Parker, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We have none opposed with the changes and the current agenda. Moving into our approval of the minutes, we have 3 sets of minutes, one from June 17th, July 15th, and July 29th. Unless somebody would like to do them separately, do we have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as presented for June 17th, July 15th, and July 29th, 2024, with one adjustment on July 15th. Trustee Parker was absent. As we go through the approvals and the meeting information and the voting, it doesn't indicate that he was a yay or nay or present. So we should probably add him as absent under each
motion?
Mhm.
Can correct
Well, it
that.
says absent at the top.
Right,
Typically-
but
Yeah.
procedure is under each vote, you list the yays, the nays, and the absents. That way if they just look back.
Number 3 says he made a motion.
Pardon me?
Number 3 here, it says he made a motion.
Are you looking at the 15th?
No, I'm wrong, sorry.
Okay, that's not a,
Okay,
we can adjust.
that's fine.
Should that?
We have a motion by Rousseau. Do we have a support?
Should that
Support.
also go for the 29th, because 3 were absent, and on number 3 on the 29th, it said all were yays, and doesn't list the absence there either.
Okay. We have a support, I'm sorry, support by Parker? Or no, it was Edward, a support by Edwards. And if we could on July 15th, and you said the 29th,
Yes.
note at each motion the absences. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? There are none opposed. Moving into our bills, we have our 2 sets of bills. First being in the amount of $462,707.39. And the second in $105,625.89. Do we have a motion or discussion?
Make a motion as presented.
We have a motion by Parker to accept the bills as presented. Do we have support?
Support?
support by Edwards. Mrs. Wilson, could you please call a roll on that one?
Sure. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Poznanski.
Yes. Motion carries. If I could note I apologize. Our treasurer's report, both of the earnings for each account and the grand total to date of $234,437.65 that we have earned on our money just sitting in a revenue-bearing account. Yes. Okay. Now into our presentations. We have our green space group. I do apologize, I could not get the computer and to connect with the screen, so Donna is going to be very descriptive in her language.
Good evening. All right, so first I'm going to give you, I've got my PowerPoint right here and I've got my notes, so. Going to give you a brief status report. First of all, we're going to go into in a minute here, developed a concept site plan that you have in front of you, and we've shared that with our community members, with funders, with the government agencies, getting it out there to, it's what's being envisioned for the property. It continues the vision that started with the community members we've been working with. We've had a pre-planning meeting with your planning consultant at the village. And we're going to be following up with Megan soon with some questions about parking and other items like that. What we're working on now is a phasing plan, a maintenance plan, and then these associate cost estimates. We're trying to get all of that done by the 1st of September. Got lots of folks helping us. We've got the Clinton River Watershed Council is helping us, looking at the drainage issue and the potential of, what the engineering and the green stormwater infrastructure would look like and what that would cost. We've got an arborist from MSU, Joe Young, who folks all know here, has been helping us with the arboretum concept and the restoration concepts. We've got a research committee that's working on developing outdoor education resources. And then just lots of recreation resources, mostly, through my connections and through, M-Parks, looking at the recreational features and hardscapes and starting to cost those things out. We are giving monthly updates to the Board of Education, meeting monthly with the superintendent. We've relaunched our local fundraising, sort of based upon this concept. It's not just a vision in a few words, it's, more concrete. And then in coordination with Fort County Community Foundation, we are working on writing grants both for the acquisition, finish up the acquisition, and for development of the property. So lots of work to do. Let's take a quick look at this. So you've got, right now, all you've got is mowed open space, so that's maintaining a central area. On the back, we've got descriptions of all of the different areas. So mowed open space kind of being the baseline condition for the property. We'll be developing native landscapes, other improvements around that, but retaining a large central area for unstructured play, which is good for kids and good for everybody. And then also probably maintaining mowed buffers along the edges, especially when you're working with native landscapes. A nice hard mowed edge means, this is planned, we meant to do this, and sets it up very nicely. But it'd be a place to have, yoga classes, tai chi, kite flying. You see kids out there now flying kites with their parents and playing and stuff. So we are looking at establishing a native tree canopy that sort of augments what's already in the neighborhood and in the park, but creating it as sort of a more traditional park setting, establishing it as an arboretum. We would like to have it be a certified arboretum, and ArbNet is the agency, which I believe is out of the Morton Arboretum. We need to verify that. And that requires that you have a minimum of 25 types of woody plants, and that you have an organization that will maintain that certification, maintain the landscape and continue to fundraise and manage volunteers. So that would create outdoor education resources and lots of volunteer opportunities. And then that is mostly along the north and east of the property. Along the west side of the property, we're looking at doing restoration of a native landscape. That was one of the main ecosystems in the area, which is oak savanna, which is like sporadic oak trees with tall prairie plants. And that is another opportunity to share information about, the pre-industrial ecology, to do education about, the native inhabitants and how they cared for the landscapes in our region. And then just pulling in hundreds of pollinator species and birds into the area. It's also an opportunity to have mowed paths, inviting people to come in and enjoy it. So looking at, as you know, in the southeast corner of the property, am I in the right place? Let's see, let me get my directions straight. Yep, southeast is where there have been some major flooding issues, which was attempted to be corrected by putting in a detention basin and uncovering a drain that had been covered up before. That is now all completely silted over, and it will just, flood again. So the solution for that, and that's where we're looking to the Clinton River Watershed Council to give us some advice, is green stormwater infrastructure, which is using native plants to filter, slow down the water, and then using bioswales, creating a low area with vegetation in it that will capture it and then slowly filtrate it down. But we do have that storm drain there that could also be used for overflow, and it would just require some annual maintenance, and a volunteer could be trained to do that. And then looking at pollinator gardens as part of the edges of those bioswales, and in various areas around the park, the pollinator gardens is like taking the most beautiful and brightest native plants and having sort of some showy areas of native landscape. Points of interest, there's a really rich history of the site, and we also have the science that we want to present. And so we've sort of sketched out some areas where we may have points of interest, where we could convey information to visitors, interpretive signage. We could have QR codes posted that point to a web page or a video, or even look at, augmented reality, where you look through your phone and you can see a photograph of the past overlaid on the present. Multiple methods is important because different people have different needs in how they connect with information. Accessible gathering spaces and pathways. So it's for people. The place, we're focusing on native landscapes and trees and managing our stormwater, but the property is really for people. So we want to have universally accessible walkways, places to gather, so folks will come who can walk to the property, who might drive there for a picnic or meet friends, and hopefully looking at educators bringing their students for outdoor education. So we could also have some organized things like story time, board games, and informal outdoor meetings. Adding into that natural play and seating elements, there's kind of a movement right now in parks of having nature play, where instead of like plastic playgrounds, you have rocks and stumps and different things that you could climb on. And if you're looking at creating a truly universally accessible and intergenerational space, you might have an accessible pathway, and then these kind of fun things along the side where maybe a grandparent would be walking on the pathway and kids could be, bopping around alongside. And then we've identified in this northern area here, an activity area, which I think that will be the last place that would be like fully planned out and funded and developed. But looking at that, setting that aside for the future, if this is used, as we hope, as an outdoor classroom, it may be a place where there would be community gardens, there may be other more active, more built sorts of things. So we've sort of isolated that area as that future activity area. You'll also notice we've called out Thompson Place, which is not, part of the property that's being acquired. It's still a village right-of-way. So we thought we would just leave that also as mowed open space. And then, although I would like to consider, we've also considering that there are identified some points that may be the best access for, accessible parking and entry into the property. And that entrance right there is one of the best places for that. So looking at developing those accessible entrances. Any thoughts or questions? Yes.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, this looks really nice. Well thought out, very impressive.
As far as parking goes, is the plan to just keep those spaces on the east side, not adding any to the west or north?
At this point, and this is one of the things I want to meet with, when we come talk to Megan about, because you do roads and parking. Maintaining, our vision right now is to maintain that on-street parking. And then it'd be nice if we could add that bus lane back in on the west side as, parallel parking. And that's also a really nice opportunity for an accessible parking place that goes directly onto an accessible plaza. So at this point, not anticipating more parking being needed or an internal parking lot.
Did I hear you mention that the cost of the landscaping or the maintenance would be taken care of?
Yes,
Okay, so that's all already in your acquisition, your budget.
we are working out that budget, but our intent is for that to be fully paid for, fully funded.
And the village residents wouldn't pick up any of the cost? I mean, this would be on your,
No,
on your group?
For how long?
I beg your pardon?
For how long are you anticipating the maintenance being taken care of?
Well, the maintenance, so let me move into, I've got another part about that to go through. And this is part of, your due diligence on accepting this property. I understand you need to understand the risks and the costs. And at some point, as we move closer to the acquisition, especially as we're writing grants and people need to know that this is actually going to be accepted by the village, there may be certain conditions, we could discuss what those conditions are under which you would want the property. And these are just suggestions. One is that, it's very tiny on my phone, my PowerPoint, let me see if I can get it a little better. Is that the acquisition does not require funding from the village. Which we're developing this into a phased development plan. How quickly those phases happen will depend on how quickly the funding is there. We're looking at several different grants, from piecemeal grants to a rather large grant that would take care of the whole thing. The phased development plan aligns with the village master plan and the 5-year recreation plan. The site plan is approved for the recreation special land use under R1. That the development does not require funding from the village. That we establish an endowed fund with the 4-County Community Foundation that will help support the maintenance and continued improvements of this property, and as we discussed before, of other green spaces in the village. And that we would create a formal organization that maintains the Arboretum certification, manages volunteers, and continues fundraising. However, I think that for, the long-term maintenance, you would probably want to commit to, some minimum amount in your budget. Just so that you know that it can be mowed, if need be. Right now the school district is spending $6,500 a year to maintain it. So if you had an annual budget amount of, say, $5,000, and we always try to come in to supplement that, it would make sense for you to have something in your budget for the maintenance.
I would also point out, we would need to consider the maintenance of the parking. We all know creating road, curb, that isn't cheap, but then also snow. So those are
Yeah.
things that we're gonna have to, we can't just leave these parking spaces snowed in. That's additional maintenance. So there's a few more things we do have to think about.
Yeah, no, and the parking is in pretty poor shape, and that's something that we have not investigated yet, and we need to talk about. So,
What
the
about
ongoing
lighting?
maintenance, and then how often, if you owned it, whether those would be resurfaced when the roads are resurfaced, however you wanna handle that.
That's for sure.
What about lighting?
We have it envisioned at this point, and of course, all of this is input into the plan, as a dawn to dusk park. I don't see that we would need to light it at night. If we did, we could look at solar lighting. I think that the park out here probably closes when it's dark, right?
So, a couple other questions.
Mhm.
When you say there'll be an organization that looks at maintaining it, growing it, adding to it, so the village you're proposing would own the property but have no say in the development, planning, or?
I'm not. No, I'm not proposing you having to say, we're inviting you in right now.
So wouldn't you just turn that over to the village then, instead of a group maintaining it and coming up with future plans and development? Or what
Well-
group, are you talking about the GSOP continuing to manage it?
Well, we need to pull together what the plan is for a future organization, but if we're gonna maintain it as an arboretum with a certification, manage volunteers to do maintenance on the trees in the native landscape, to continue to support the park.
So that would be GSOP potentially.
I wonder if, to your point, maybe it could be just a faction of the tree board, considering what the tree board is interested in. I don't know,
Yeah.
potential.
Possibility.
Yeah, that's a good one, okay.
Another question, the parking spots that we're looking at here, that's for the people park only, right? I only say that because I notice that
Yeah,
there are neighbors across the street that park in some of these spots on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
Which
I
I'm like,
haven't thought about that, no.
okay.
My other thought would be, I know all the neighbors love it, but what about the furry neighbors that will really love it also? And how would we even try to mitigate that? I mean, if we have family of coons, skunks, deer, and now we have deer
We have
car
deer there now.
issues. I don't know, how do we, but I don't want to add to it.
Mhm.
Thinking of something about that in the world of what this would attract,
Okay,
I think is a consideration.
yep, we'll do some research into
Don't
that.
think there's much you could do. No.
And then I did notice in here it mentions 30% of the households are
Mhm.
reporting one or more persons with a disability.
Mhm.
So can you tell me where that statistic came from, what qualified as a disability, and where that information came from?
That's from the census. Yeah,
The
US
most
Census.
recent census?
Yeah, and it's updated, I get the information from Esri, it's updated from the American Community Survey every year.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I can provide more detail if you want, because I just updated those numbers. So your questions, the parking, how do you manage urban wildlife within it? What did I miss? Looking at, now, you're interested in it simply coming over to the village without the continued support from, because we had planned to establish an endowment fund,
No,
And
not necessarily.
bring volunteers in.
We've just, in our recent village past, have had some not so smooth situations where people were enhancing neighborhoods and village parks. And the village had virtually no say in what happened and wasn't always on board with the decisions. And so I would hate to see that happen again, where, because as a council, we're the ones looking out for the
Right.
village and the residents. So we need to be able to maintain some type of relationship and ultimate authority if this came to pass.
Oh, absolutely. And in the meantime, this is a concept plan. And so, you know, how do we get your input, you know, into that, besides this forum is the beginning of that? And also as we are, you know, writing grants to move this forward, you know, you need to be a partner on those grants, which means you're knowing, you know, what the content of those grants are. So we need to be active partners moving forward.
I like the concept, except for the part of the maintenance, the mowed open area. It seems like that we might be responsible for that down the road. But has your company at all talked to the contractor that wants to give you half of the property and he works on half of it? Since you mentioned north of the mowed area, the Thompson place, I mean, that property is part of this development too, correct? And you're looking to do something at a later date? That's what I heard you say?
Well, we're looking at that as a potential, you know, if this blossoms as we hope it will as an outdoor classroom. And I've heard, I think, you know, Trustee Rosso mentioned at some point interest in like a community garden when we were talking one day, that would be the area for those more active sorts of activities.
I'm just looking for areas where the taxpayers aren't paying for anything, but we can recoup some types of funds off the property, because the development of the park is nice, but in the long run, the residents will end up paying for, like she says, snow removal, sidewalks, repairs, all that kind of stuff. Just some of my concerns.
But it's there for the benefit of the people of the village.
I understand it's for the benefit of
And
the people.
and we do
But the
that for
people
all
don't
of our
have to keep
parks.
paying, digging into their pocket to pay for it, that's
And
awesome.
we do that for all of our parks. That's part of living in a community.
Well, your tax dollars keep going up too.
It's fine.
Well, and one thing I sort of ended here with a quote from the Village of Romeo Master Plan, to saying that Romeo's commitment to conserving and protecting the environment is directly connected to enhancing quality of life for our residents, businesses, and visitors. This requires a comprehensive inclusion of a green perspective in all our endeavors, whether they're in the area of commercial development, the creation of recreational activities, determining viable land use patterns, or preserving and enhancing our neighborhoods. I mean, this is the idea that you are enhancing the village and, you know, a place where people will want to live and move to and bring their families to, as a long-term benefit.
Thank you, Donna.
Can I mention one very quick thing? As we're looking at actual acquisition of the property, you know, transfer of the property, when we get to that point, there are kind of two ways we could approach it. And one is, certainly before we get to that point, understanding, you know, what that due diligence is, what those conditions need to be in place for you to want to accept the property. One is for you to enter directly into a purchase agreement with the Board of Education. The other is we're looking at the potential for a nonprofit partner, which we talked about this before when we were talking with Six Rivers, actually being the one who purchases the property, holds it while it's being developed, and then being transferred at some point, just to make sure that you are not responsible for any of those development costs. But I really do stress that this is for the village, and we don't want to do it without you. So, you know, however you can help us to make sure that you have your input along the way, you know, please help us to engage with us.
Donna, when do you think you'll be able to have a plan and a fund established that will ensure us that the long-term upkeep and maintenance of the property, like originally was discussed, will be in place? When do you feel that's gonna happen?
I think that
For
would,
us, for the village to acquire a piece of property and then hope it's gonna happen, seems kinda
Yeah.
neglectful on our end.
exactly, and that's why I'm suggesting that those are the conditions that you need to see. I mean, we're still fundraising for the acquisition, but we will immediately start working on, pulling that endowment fund together, so. I can't give you a
Do we have
timeline
anything else?
in a year.
How's the fundraising going?
We have just relaunched it with this plan in hand. So we are at $360,000. We've relaunched all the local fundraising. We've got an amazing committee of people that are just starting to pound the pavements and talk to all the businesses. And then just working with grants. We're expecting the acquisition could cost up to $800,000. We've asked the Board of Education to consider $700,000. But we're talking with regional foundations, and we've got a federal grant we're looking at also.
Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, Donna.
Next, we have a presentation from Mr. Raz.
Good evening, board members. If I could take just a quick second and pass out just a couple of concept flyers here.
And could you clarify for me, I apologize, to me, that's Mr. Raz. What is your name?
Yes, I'm Justin Raz from
Thank
Raz
you.
Building and Development, and I represent my parents as well tonight. Very nice presentation on the Green Space Initiative. I give them a lot of credit for a very broad plan. I took a few notes when I was sitting back there, and the biggest thing that I want to start with tonight is just a thoughtful conversation on an alternative to what they're proposing. What you have in front of you is essentially a 10 home site development with a park. It leaves some open space, but it also brings in tax revenue for housing. It also gives people an opportunity to move to Romeo and not have a home that's pre-existing. We'd like to do something in the vein of the architecture that's in the village already with those homes. I guess the good part is this is a best of both worlds concept. So you do get to have the park, and you get to have some housing. We get to have some new residents here, some new blood. Ultimately, I have some concerns and questions about procedure with regard to the green space. I heard about a special land use that would need to be granted for what they're trying to do there. There are several things with costs associated to them. And I think that when it comes down to it, there's a lot of liability at stake if it all becomes park. Although it's a beautiful plan, I question the ability to fundraise and gain volunteers for a permanent basis. It may be something that's accomplished on a temporary basis to attain the land. The village takes over the land, and you're gonna have to have people that champion this cause as well to move things forward. If the property is sold to highest bidder at the school board, it's very possible that they could get outbid. And the highest bidder could be a developer that comes in with this concept. Let's hope they come in with this concept, because if they don't, you're not looking at 10 homes, you're looking at 17. Because that's
14.
what they could potentially do.
14th.
Is that, okay. One of the early plans.
14 is with the road.
Okay.
The school assumed a bit too much that the road would no longer be there.
Still, 14 lots is substantial, right? At any rate, I think that some thoughtful discussion needs to be had between the residents of Romeo, the green space people, and you as the board. And ultimately, I think the planning commission is gonna have to get involved prior to any decision here if it is a special land use. And Justin, you correct me on that topic if I'm wrong.
I believe you're correct.
Okay, so I mean, it's one thing for the board to sit here in several meetings and thoughtfully think forward, which you're already doing from a maintenance perspective and a capital contribution perspective. Where is this money gonna come from? If it takes $800,000 just to acquire the property, and there's 360 in pledges right now, we only have, what, 3 months until the school board's going to make a decision? It's a long way to go. It's not even half. Then, just listening to some of the things that are thoughtfully being planned, that sounds like another $1 million to me. Now, and then if we're planting trees that are gonna benefit people immediately, you know, I mean, it's one thing. I had a client that went out and planted 40,000 trees earlier this spring. They're this tall. Half of them aren't gonna survive. Okay? So I think ultimately this board is gonna have to make a decision based on the finances of what they're proposing prior to the school board making a decision. And I think that's the biggest thing that you guys are gonna have to really think about. This shouldn't be an if come. If they win the bid, then we'll talk. Because ultimately, it's already been postponed. The school board should be acting in the best interest of the school system and the community as well. They should be taking highest bid. I really just wanted to say that piece tonight. I'm not looking for any type of an approval or promise for this development. I'll follow procedure. I'll go to the planning commission. We'll go through engineering approval. We'll go through site plan and everything else that we have to do. But I want this to be a concept that the rest of the community maybe looks at as an alternative. You have any questions for me? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Shelley.
Hi, Shelley.
Hi. The size of the proposed park, do you have an approximate size of what you're?
I want to say it's close to 2 acres, 1.7, 1.9, something like that.
Almost half. And the homes, what size is their lot approximately?
I think we're going for like 160, I'm sorry, 60 by 125 or 130. And it will depend on drainage, it's gonna depend on infrastructure, and all of the things that come along with the development. We always take that kind of stuff into consideration when laying out our subdivisions.
And down the middle and across, there's this T shape. Are those sidewalks or what is that?
Again, this is a conceptual plan. I think what that's representing is a walking path to get from Chandler Street to the park, because you already have Prospect as an entrance.
Okay.
And again, mind you, this is very rudimentary
Right,
conceptual.
but it gives me an idea of your
I
thought
understand.
process in
Right,
general.
well, we're trying to include everybody from both sides of the road.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Have you talked with the group at all and met with them?
You know, Richard Corey had come in and talked to us a few months back, and, you know, kind of soliciting, you know, a pledge. We had discussed a concept similar to this, actually even a little bit less than this, in order to kind of do a best of both worlds concept there. And he said that it probably wasn't in the makings.
The collaboration between
Correct.
you and that group?
Correct. We'd still like to keep that conversation open, because ultimately, you know, we're from the community, and we are community-minded.
And with the, looking here at your print, with the proposed park area, maintenance of that,
Well, you know, when we've done open space in the past in our developments, it's always something that we leave to the residents of that particular development. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that that would be what we would do here, because again, we want everybody in the village to have access to this. However, when we come up with the overall game plan for the development and come in and get it approved, amenities for that park could be discussed. And I think that some of the tax base from the sale of the lots and homes eventually could go to the maintenance of the park.
So this proposed park wouldn't be given to the village to own and maintain, it would still be owned?
We have a couple different ways we can do that, and we'd be open to discussing them.
So you're thinking of more of a subdivision concept?
That's what we've done in the past. Again, this is a preliminary plan. The big difference is that when we acquire the land, development's first. How many homes can we get? We have to recoup our infrastructure cost, we have to recoup our investment cost, and then we can look at what type of amenities we can put together. And again, the main thing I wanted to do tonight was just get an alternative in front of everybody. And have, again, a thoughtful discussion of what's gonna be better for everybody,
So
from a
if-
financial perspective.
If it was a subdivision concept, would you be charging HOAs?
It depends. If there are an amenity like a park that mainly those residents have access to, we would have to charge HOA fees. The big difference, though, in HOA fees is that because we have infrastructure from the village, sewer, water, et cetera, there wouldn't be a charge on those things, obviously. You're gonna pay your water bill, your streets are gonna get cleaned with snow, removal and things like that. So yes, if it is a necessity to do an HOA, then the people of that development, those 10 or 14 home sites, or 12 or 11, or whatever we actually come up with, could potentially put some money towards that. There could also be a capital contribution for a period of time, and we could work with the village again as custodians or maintenance of it as time moves on. But again, I think that half the size of what they're proposing is more manageable. Kicking it off with thoughtful discussion and how we could partner together is where we would go. And the big thing is that there's a broader time spectrum associated with that. We can buy it, and we can come in and go through the proper channels.
And are you prepared to make an offer to the school board if they
Yes,
open it?
at this point we are.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Does the board have any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
And lastly, we have Mr. Sobson from our DNR presentation on behalf of our village tree board.
All right, how's it going, everyone? Usually, this has been fantastically done, because usually, it's still beyond the approval of the agenda at this point, in all these meetings I go to. But I'm Lawrence Sobson, I'm with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Urban and Community Forestry Program. I am their urban and community forester out of Belle Isle State Park in Detroit. And I am here today to talk about your wonderful, wonderful trees in Romeo. I know we've talked about a lot of green space already. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit, and I have some numbers here for you for the city of Romeo.
Village, he's saying village.
Sorry, village, I'm sorry, I know, it's been, I've gotten so many calls, it's Monday, so, but Village of Romeo. So Romeo, you guys got a relatively decent tree canopy, it's hovering around 21% right now, and that's like a real rough number. It's through the Forest Service and how they do things. They have a really relatively wide margin of error, but you are getting approximately almost $104,000 in benefits from your trees every year. It's a really weird swing out of that. About $90,000 of those benefits every year are from air pollution mitigation, while about $10,000 is from stormwater mitigation. So it's more of like a opportunity cost savings and stuff like that. I've been working with your wonderful, wonderful tree board you have, as you are also Tree City USA in great standing, to talk about an opportunity that we have through the Department of Natural Resources. Through the Inflation Reduction Act, we have received money from the Forest Service for the state of Michigan, and we are giving out that money in form of grants. So we have, calling it our IRA grant, pretty simple there, is for communities that the federal government identifies as disadvantaged, that's their term, not ours, and Romeo, all the census tracts within Romeo comply with that, so that's both like, it's like,
Yes.
it sucks it has that label, but you're eligible for the funding.
We
which
are
is-
Justice 40, yes.
Yes, so it's part of that initiative. So that removes, part of this money is we removed a ton of the barriers to it. So usually if grants, if like you need matching, so let's say you want $10,000, you have to have $10,000 in benefit as well. We are removing that for this. And instead of our usual grant, which is usually up to $50,000, it's at, I want to say, $235,000 max of match-free grant funding, which is really unheard of. It's really rare, and we only have it for a relatively short amount of time. And I wanted to make sure Romeo was, had the opportunity to apply, and the village could get some really solid funding to kind of build up, modernize the tree program, and that you'll be getting that special. We talked about it recently, don't tell anyone yet, but we're gonna be having really special Tree City USA signs next year for the 50th anniversary of the program. So, and yeah, you'll be getting one, don't worry. But yeah, working with your tree board, we talked about some of the issues with the village, some of the concerns about trees, and some of the like future plans, like what do you want to see? And definitely I'm here to essentially be like, hey, this is what we talked about, this is what we're thinking. I will say, just for the sake of time, this IRA grant, the deadline is August 31st. So it's coming up less than 2 weeks. Good news is we haven't received a single application yet, so we don't have any competition for you if you get in this week. But bad news is time's ticking on it. We talked mainly about what would be to have a good tree program for the village of Romeo. And one of the things is just having some general knowledge and paperwork of what you got. So in late July, I was here with the tree board, as well as 2 representatives from Davie Resource Group, which is a well-accredited company that does these sort of things, and they've worked with other municipalities in Michigan that we work with through our program through the state. And we got the tree board got a quote for, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, an inventory of what trees you have within village limits, as well as vacant spaces possibly. An urban tree canopy assessment, so assessing your canopy, getting the real number. My Forest Service number is good, but they take some liberties, so definitely we'll know exactly what you need. If it is around this 21%, our state goal is to get communities to 30%, because that's where we start to see really big health benefits, really big reductions in energy usage, etc. And also a management plan, a nice document that can be living and definitely change, but definitely be like, okay, this is what we're going to do when, this is how we're going to do it, and this is exactly what we need to do it. So kind of all encompassing there, you got all your wonderful bureaucratic paperwork in order to really just have the data to be able to make a really good informed decision. Some other things we talked about are possibly including some certifications and trainings, because International Society of Arborists, or ISA, certification is something that we strive for all communities to have someone probably have it, or at least a couple of people. It's pretty nice to have. It's just, I use the analogy of driving a car. It's just like, okay, you have a learner's permit, and if someone on city staff or something, or a couple of people have that certification, you can get into a car, you can know how to start it, and you know how to drive it around. You don't want to go on the highway yet, but that's okay, you don't need to. That's what we're here for. We're here to sit in the passenger seat and take you on the highway. We talked about planting, both in public right-of-ways and private right-of-ways, and definitely downtown. You have a wonderful downtown area, and I see those beautiful honey locusts and the sidewalks and everything, and those are what is colloquially known as tree coffins. It's what they're in. And honestly, they're not the worst thing in the world, but when those trees do have to come down, it's gonna be a pain. Already honey locusts are like, they're there, they're okay, they're not the best tree, but at the very least, this grant can pay for the disruption of that surrounding sidewalk area. And then really the best thing to put in its place that is still ADA compliant, cheap, and easy to maintain for Public Works, or do you have Public Works Department?
We do.
Okay. Is really just nice, wonderful little pavers. It allows water infiltration, easy to replace, it's cheap, you can get them anywhere. Mix of pavers and bricks, and we've worked with some engineering companies in the past for those standards, so anything you need in that regard, please let us know. In terms of planting, it might not be, just because it's coming up, it might not be for this grant period, but we will have a second grant period in January opening up for this funding. It's going to be the last chance to essentially get this pot of funding. And it will be better, especially with the inventory as well. Definitely, I recommend doing some planting. You could put in some really nice species of trees that aren't going to be a pain. I know around the city, and this is just my personal observation, you got silver maple, you got honey locust, and you got oaks. Silver maple is one of the worst trees. It's wonderful, it's native, but you don't have to boo me here, but I used to work for DTE, and that's 95% of your power outages there. Like, the stats are insane, and those are terrible and really should not be planted at all and should come down for the sake of safety and utilities. Honey locusts, they are a high economic cost tree because they don't prune themselves well, so you'll have a lot of dead branches on those, and sometimes they can revert back to their thorny nature. That's a non-landscape version, and those are just have a higher maintenance cost compared to a lot of the other things. And oaks are just like wine. You got two different types. You got your white oak family and your red oak family, and your red oak family is the one that is susceptible to the disease oak wilt. If anyone here is familiar, it's a disease that affects oaks, kills them, and could spread really quickly. And it's one of the most economically and environmentally destructive diseases we have here in Michigan. So those three species I've seen around, we can definitely, this grant is available where you could remove those and replant with some better species that, working with Green Macomb in the past, have been planted at, I think, is it called Trailhead Park?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, like some of those, like Yellowwood is the best air filter tree. It's great, it's stronger, it gets nice flowers. Black gum is my favorite. It's gorgeous in the fall. We have too many maples in the canopy, so think of it as like investment. If Romeo is like a lot of our municipalities in Michigan, you probably have like 30 to 50% maples. If an insect or disease comes in that attacks those, it could wipe all those out, and then you're really like left in a pickle there. So black gum is our maple replacement, same nice red fall color, better columnar, tighter shape for roadways, so you just trim the lower branches at any certain point and you're not dealing with the issues. And it's a lot stronger wood. And also hackberry, very good for water filtration, fantastic tree, cheap to buy, really solid, medium size. And Kentucky coffee tree, which is gorgeous, comes in a seedless variety, so it's a lot less work for DPW. It's all the benefits of a honey locust without the downsides, in all honesty, and it looks a lot better. You could throw the kitchen sink in it and that's not dying. So I will be working with your tree board to assist them in any endeavors for the village of Romeo. But one of the reasons why I'm here today is just in this next couple of weeks to please assist the tree board, because they will need some information for our grant application. And the only thing, which I'm not sure if it is an issue, I'm sure Romeo's gotten grants before, of course, right? But it is a reimbursement grant, but we're really good on it because we already have the money we could reimburse within a day. So it shouldn't be any pain. We're trying to make it as painless as possible. I love Romeo. Romeo's fantastic.
We think so too.
Oh, yeah. I will have moved here if my better half won't let me. He's like, oh, stay down. Yeah, I'm in St. Clair Shores. I love St. Clair Shores too, but there's not as much charm. There really isn't. Like the Peach Festival, thrilling. But yeah, we are here to help, and you got a lot going on here. You really do. But do you have any questions about your trees here, or anything that the tree board's doing, or stuff like that? And anything you want to see, we're talking tomorrow, and they're gonna put that grant together. They're asking. I have the checkbook right there. You just say what you want.
I'd like to see fewer black walnut trees.
Okay, I understand.
That's true.
No, I think a tree assessment is completely up our alley. It's definitely needed. Often get questions of, is this my tree, a village tree, who's responsible? We would be able to pull out this document and know instantly without having to go, well, let's get out the plats. What street is this off center? In measuring, well, the center used to be, it would be off the center of this 5-foot wide tree now, and the center used to be like, this is very much needed. And then we would know the health, be able to continue to have planned care, maintenance, what needs to go, bring in. I think it's great.
Yeah, this will really help, and we usually have a yearly grant, but this is something special that we don't expect to have anytime soon, ever again, so.
When you had mentioned to me, we spoke on the phone briefly, that part of it is allowed to actually be planted on personal property, which that is unheard of. We've had struggled, the tree board, because everything has to be planted on public property. We can't expend the funds onto personal, and some of this money can go to trees that could go in any of our front yards.
Yes, and I will say, I still believe that you do have some right-of-ways that are definitely not suitable at all, like driving down here, north side of the main street, no. South side though, you have really solid right-of-way areas that can fit some really solid trees. But yes, you can plant on private property as well, which is huge. For the removal aspect, not to get too technical into grant paperwork, it's on our website if you want to read it. But for the removal aspect, every tree you would pay to remove with this grant, you would plant 2 more somewhere within village limits in its place, which is also something we've never funded before, ever, which is kind of cool. So it really is like a huge jump start in reshaping the landscape. And Village of Romeo, you have people that care, which is
Absolutely.
really the most important thing. Because I can't tell you, I love Imlay City. I talk to them and I haven't heard from them in months. I love Sandusky, I love all these other places, but no, Romeo, you guys called me and asked me to come here, so I'm more than happy to be like, okay, let's get something done.
If I could suggest that the board, in the creation of either this grant or the following one, the DDA is looking for some sort of Main Street tree rehab, something. So if there's funds available, the DDA would probably very much enjoy speaking with you guys.
We can maybe also work with Green Macomb as well, since they also may have extra funds to throw at this for the time being as well.
Could the DDA just work with the tree board?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that they need to converse.
How quickly does this money have to be spent?
2 years, I think?
2 years?
Yeah.
So possibly you could use it on the green space on Prospect?
It's a possibility, yes, and we actually are going to talk about it tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, you're already on that, okay.
Yeah, so we have a second grant out right now as well, which if this one isn't for, just because it's due in less than 2 weeks, and the next one is in January, that'll probably be open for a month, month and a half. Our grant coordinator is going to figure it out once we finish this one, just because we're expecting a lot of competition, because we've talked to a lot of people. I think Romeo's in a very good position to compete against other grant applications. I think you have the location and the support. And really, it's just a matter of putting it all together, which we'll figure out this week, pretty much.
Can we apply for this one and the one in January?
Yeah, you definitely can. You could apply, you could put in 5 applications for this one if you really want. That doesn't mean all of them will get funded, but you could, so. Yeah, it's not too bad. We do have some money coming in, and we want to get it out to wonderful municipalities such as yourselves here. So, for an
You
example.
mentioned removal,
Yeah.
and it would also pay for the, well, in particular, I'm thinking, talk to the owner of Main Street Bar and Grill. That big tree right there where he can't use the outdoor area because of the tree is actually sitting there. And you can't maneuver around to the lower part, so it's kind of, it's an obstruction zone. You mentioned there that this grant will take care of concrete repair plus removal of the tree?
It can't be removal or concrete removal or anything like that on private property, unfortunately.
It's
We've
the
only
village
been
property,
planting on
the
private.
sidewalk area is the village property?
And everything else on public, yeah, it's available for that. We have a whole handbook, we have the whole application and the webinar on our website. I do have business cards if anyone would like them. You know what, do you mind if I hand them to you? So you're more than welcome to contact me, and both me and our grant coordinator, Carrie Gray, who's also based out of Detroit, have been in contact with the tree board and are assisting. And if I can answer a question, she definitely can. She lives in Plymouth though, so she's not gonna drive up here, but I will, so. So, yeah, we do have, and we are revamping, just for the sake, I know you have a lot of utilities as well, in Romeo. I am currently working with the Michigan Green Industry Association, MSU Extension, Michigan Nursery and Landscape Association, and DTE and Consumers Energy on a expanded, recommended, and non-recommended species and cultivar list of trees. And my office looks like a crime scene investigation with lines and sticky notes and everything. So that won't be done probably until the new year, but when it is, we actually have some really good utility considerations already that are exciting, to say the least. And so you could fit things near some, not the primary lines, you're never gonna fit anything by there, but if you have secondary lines that you're concerned about, we could fit things in there that will never even touch them, ever, and you won't have to worry about it, and it's really exciting, and we'll pay for it, so.
So a question about those, if they're not gonna touch it, would we end up with a topography that's really low and flat, where the trees aren't getting tall and?
It depends specifically. Most of them, yes, for the most part. There's one, I guess an example, does anyone know what a Zelkova is? It's usually a very vase-shaped upright tree. It has nice leaves, kind of like an elm, and it has like a very attractive bark of multicolors. It's a great tree. It goes up very quickly. It gets into power lines, makes a big mess, it's prone to breakage. There's a cultivar, when I say cultivar, think of it like a brand. There's a cultivar of Zelkova called Wireless. That's the brand name. And it gets up to 20 feet flat. That's it. And then all you gotta do is trim the edges for any trucks going by, and it tends to do really well. I talked to my counterpart for the state of Washington, and they have a ton of them in Seattle, and they love them. They're fantastic. So there's stuff like that definitely that we could get in, and I'm currently, we do actually already have the connections to get them ordered and sent, if needed, and also the county can also assist. We're ready. So we got some cool stuff. And then also Green in Detroit and I have been working together, and there's other things which are kind of like tree shrub sort of deal, where it's like they're much smaller, not gonna get wide. They're just like, think of them as big shrubs, small trees. So we got our list. It's a very difficult niche to hit, but we're trying to make it as palatable and easy as possible.
Well, thank you, Lawrence, and best of luck to the tree board. Let me know if you guys need information from me. Moving on into our correspondence. I had one here by the time I put out the packet, and then I received another one this afternoon. I'm not going to read the one that I have in here. I apologize. It was like, where is our public comment? The one regarding chickens, there is a lot. I guess I could read the email, not the whole thing. This was sent to all the trustees in our emails also. It reads that I respectfully request that the council consider and find that a small number of chickens kept properly and in their owner's yard be determined as house pets / domesticated animals in the village limits and permitted by Village Ordinance Section 4-1. Across the country, urban and suburban areas are allowing small backyard flocks. Major cities allowing flocks and considering them pets, domesticated animals are Atlanta, Salt Lake City, Minneapolis, and Traverse City. Closer to home, we have towns such as Ann Arbor, Farmington Hills, Madison Heights, and Rochester Hills. All these towns recognize chickens as house pets, domesticated, some having specific regulations in place. Owners of chickens prize them for their tame, friendly, and entertaining personalities, but along with being a companion, they play a part in a greener life. They naturally control insect pests, improve lawns, and improve gardens. Up to 50% of all household waste is compostable, and chickens will eat much of that waste. Chickens also provide an easy, low-cost food source, and in today's economy, that is valuable. Lastly, chicken manure is recommended by U.S. Extension colleges for use in composting when aged to remove risk of disease. Chicken manure can be a concern due to cleanliness, smell, and disease, but when properly processed, it is no more of an issue than cat or dog feces. Dog-to-human disease such as worm infestations happen at a high rate, but this risk is normalized. It takes 10 chickens to make as much feces as a large dog, and those are permitted in the village. Chickens are a household pet, also provide a lesson in responsibility for children and even adults. While the concerns with this could be the lack of responsibility, can cause smells, unwanted animals in feed, and noise disturbances, it is not something other animals permitted don't already cause. Feed not properly stored would attract animals, just as someone doing a poor job composting, putting out food for strays, and even laying bird seed for wild birds. Most of these are not regulated by cities and left to its citizens. As stated earlier, if manure is processed properly, it should not smell. Section 34-35 and Section 34-36 of the village's ordinances could also be followed when having chickens, or again, owners could choose to compost. As for the noise disturbances, hens laying song is about 60 to 70 decibels, the same as a human conversation. At that many decibels, it would take 12 hens to produce the noise of one barking dog. If roosters are allowed to be considered by the council, it should be known they are no louder than noises we already live with, such as power tools and barking dogs. Yes, they can crow more often than some dogs, but not any more loudly. It could be that one rooster is permitted per household as to keep noise level down if it is a concern. Roosters do provide valuable to hens as means of directing pecking order, finding food, and protection. I have attached a PDF from Michigan State University that suggests different guidelines that can be considered as ordinances by the council when allowing chickens. Thank you, Rachel Kiesling and Garth Hickson. And there is the attached in here for you guys. So that was one correspondence. This afternoon, again, the council did receive this. Email from Catherine Trapp. Dear Village President and Trustees, I'm addressing this message publicly to ensure clarity and transparency. It has come to my attention that my human resources documents with my new employer is an agenda item under unfinished business on the August 19th, 2024 BOT agenda. I would like to make it clear to the board and you that this behavior is an unacceptable form of harassment and must stop immediately. I'm a private citizen/resident in the village of Romeo and do not understand this invasion of privacy. My current employer is also aware of this harassment. It is a violation of my personal space and privacy, and I ask you to cease all forms of contact with me and my current employer and cease adding items of my personal life to public agendas. I expect this request to be respected. Continued harassment will leave me no choice but to take further action, including all appropriate legal action. I am requesting this correspondence to be communicated and read aloud at the August 19, 2024 Board of Trustees meeting. Refusal to read this correspondence will be noted as discrimination and censorship as a member of the community. Thank you, Catherine Tripp. Now we have our public comment. Public comment time is open to the public. You may speak for 3 minutes on any topic you wish to address at the podium.
Hello, I am Danielle Lee. I serve as the Vice Chair for the Romeo Downtown Development Authority. As you know, over the past few months, the village and the DDA have been actively collaborating to find an equitable solution to address the parking challenges in our downtown area. This issue is multifaceted and requires a comprehensive approach for resolution. During the last village board meeting, we engaged in a thorough presentation, lively discussion, and Q&A sessions regarding the proposed implementation of paid parking downtown. Following that deliberation, the board approved implementation of paid parking in the downtown area. Since then, the DDA and village subcommittee have diligently been working to gather data, formulate a comprehensive plan that benefits the entire community based on your vote and trust in this group. I was disappointed to learn of a reconsideration of that vote on today's agenda. I urge you to carefully evaluate the grounds for this reconsideration, ensuring that it is based on valid reasons stemming from previously undisclosed information. It is not uncommon to include an item on the agenda at the onset of a meeting and vote on it during that same session. This practice is quite commonplace. In this instance, there had been several months of deliberation by both boards with a reasonable anticipation that this matter would progress. Please thoughtfully consider if this reconsideration is warranted. Thank you.
Do we have any more public comment?
Hello, my name is Melissa Van Wimmer. I am a business owner at the shop in town. I also sit on the DDA, and I just wanted to voice my support for the paid parking in town in lieu of potentially raising my business taxes to cover parking lot maintenance, which we are lacking funds for. So I think we have a really good plan moving forward to utilize these funds, and I think it would ease the burden on the residential taxpayers as well as the business owners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you get 6 minutes now since there's 2 of you?
I knew bringing him brought me an advantage. I am Rachel Keesley, the one that typed the lovely lengthy letter about the chickens. And I just wanted to come because I did get an email from Shelley, and she was inquiring about if there was any other requests for further poultry, such as turkeys, ducks. Some people have quail. I would like to say that my first and foremost request is for hens. Roosters, I know a lot of villages do not permit them due to the noise. I do not want to try to fight for turkeys. I feel like they're very large. Quail and ducks do have an advantage. Quails are a lot smaller, and they do require less space than chickens and ducks. All 3 of those breeds do have all the same advantages that were stated in the letter. And then I did find this. I have been talking with people in the community about this, and someone did forward me this in Muskegon of February this year. They actually were going back and forth on whether they should allow hens in their community, and they did approve it. They did have some fairly strict guidelines, which I would leave those up to you, or if you would like to reach out to the community and see their opinion. And they did decide to move forward with it, and as noted by the city commissioner, people were already keeping chickens in violation of the laws anyways. So instead of just letting people have them, and turning a blind eye, they were seeking to put ordinances in place so that it was better maintained and controlled. Controlled maybe be a little steep, but it was better looked over by the community, so things did not get out of control. So, I'm sorry I did not print you a copy of that, but it is on MLive if you would like to find the article about Muskegon and see how they went forward with it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Dave Thomas, local business owner on Main Street. Tough to follow the cute baby and all the chicken information.
You only get 3 minutes.
I learned so much tonight. This is great. Can't wait to tell my kids about it. I am here to voice my support for the parking meters. It's, based on the projections at the DDA, and great job DDA with providing some solutions. And this one just seems to have something we've all been working towards. I've only been here for 3 years, but I know it's been going on a lot longer than that, a parking solution, and here's, one way to get there. So, I've heard some are for it, some are against it in the community. Elderly residents were raising concern too. I'm from Elmont, lived in Royal Oak 10 years before coming back up here with our kiddos. Royal Oak's like living in, communist China, where they take a picture right when you park, right? And that's not, and I don't think that's what we're proposing here, right? It's more of like a grace period, a learning period. And I don't want to speak for the DDA here, but I think that there's a happy middle ground where everyone can find a way to, in some certain areas where it's not going to be this blanketed approach to the community where it's going to shock everyone. So I think it's a great solution, and I just want to voice my support for it. Thanks.
Thank you. Hey, greetings, everybody. Mike from Tech City Electronics, business owner on Main Street for 15 years now. But I must not have got the memo or something like that about the parking and the parking meters or implementing anything. I didn't get any notification or email or anything, just happened to hear about it today, so I thought I'd listen in. But I will tell you, a couple years back, visiting or frequenting Royal Oak and their parking meter situation, and just parking in general, visited, I think it was Ferndale one night, backed the car in the middle of a rainstorm to attend an event, and got a ticket for backing the truck into a spot. Only backed it in because there was a motor home with a band in it that was taking up to about 6 spots in front, and there was no way to turn the car in to park it nose first. But in any case, also, my son was attending some sound engineer school there in Royal Oak, and on more than one occasion, he had received a ticket in the mail for being a minute or two over to retrieve the car after paying the parking meter, or just in general trying to interact with the parking meter. I called it in for traffic, into their traffic court, and the judge dismissed both of our tickets in dealing with their parking meters in Royal Oak because of the difficulty. The card reader wouldn't take the card, and we have a lot of seniors in this town, so just trying to get in and out of town to frequent my business, drop off a computer, pick up a computer, carry something in. I think it might be a difficult path to pave to have a lot of seniors dealing with, they don't like to deal with the credit cards in the first place, but the parking meter in Royal Oak wouldn't, even though it had coin slot on it, wouldn't even accept coins in the parking meter. So the judge had multiple complaints about the parking meters in Royal Oak, and they just waived them until they removed them and said, we're gonna come up with something else, so don't worry about it. And they had waived off a lot of tickets. So for one, I think, before we implement anything, first of all, business owners, it would have been nice to have some feedback or at least ask her opinion, what would work, what could be implemented easily if there, if there has to be a price to pay for somebody parking there. The one problem that I do see
You have
with
30
parking.
seconds.
Okay, one problem that I see real quick is anybody that has a business in the CBD should not be parking their vehicles in front of their shop, and I see a lot of that all over town. And that's something that needs to be enforced, perhaps. That would be a better avenue. If a sign says 2 hour parking, somebody should be enforcing that, making sure that at those spots that are reserved for people coming and frequenting our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more public comment?
Hi, Andrea St. Laurent, 170 Pleasant. I also serve on the DDA board as the chairperson. And I just want to give a little bit of feedback that we are not talking about parking meters. We're talking about a parking app that has a lot of options and interactive features. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that part of it. This was also something that was discussed because we're running into a situation where we are not able to get new businesses to Romeo due to the payment in lieu of parking fees. So that's where the inception of this came from. Lastly, I do want to say, let's not sell our senior community short. We have a really vibrant, active senior community in Romeo, and I don't like seeing them kind of used as the flag of why not to move forward with things. Our seniors are very involved and are very capable of being part of our area and part of our downtown. Thank you.
Do I have any more public comment? Going once, twice. Okay, we are going to close public comment and move into our officer reports. Chief, would you want to start us off this evening?
Two and a half.
I'll try to get it.
So quickly, I think most of you were here on my very first full board meeting when I gave you my first month's perception of the state of the police department. And I presented to you several pages of things that were, frankly, they were at a state of critical mass. I'm happy to report tonight, and frankly, due to Madam President and this council's support in my endeavors, we're about 75% complete with some of those updates, excuse me, and repairs. That 75%, however, is assuming, I believe the Axon proposal is on the agenda tonight. Assuming that gets approved, that's a significant move in the right direction. This week, this Thursday, half the department was recertified in CPR, first aid, AD. Next Thursday, the rest of the department will be certified. That will be a 2-year certification, and this has actually been a good reintegration with us and the fire department. I learned early on in my tenure that there might have been some break in that relationship for some reason. But the fire department is doing that certification for us, and it's been a good thing. The body armor that you approved, I'm told should be in before Peach Fest, so the officers are very excited about that. Thank you. The last meeting, I told you that I was going to begin the auditing process of the evidence and property room. I also told you that it was going to be probably a several-week endeavor. So a month later, we're about halfway through the completion of that process. And lastly,
Peach Fest is coming up. And as of today, I have in hand all the road closure and parade permits for Peach Fest, and the Peach Fest prep is complete, and your police department is ready. Any questions, please? Yeah.
First, thank you on staying diligent and everything that needs to get done, greatly appreciated. Do you have in place some type of software, HR, some tracking tool that will now monitor who's due what for when? And, I mean, obviously
So-
it appears everyone will do it annually all the time from here forward, because we just got everybody done, but in general.
If this is what you're speaking of, and I think you brought it up at that night when I gave you this whole that has been done, and what I was proposing and what I was championing, and you stated, shouldn't there have been a process where this was kind of spread out over time instead of all at once? And my answer to you that night was absolutely, and that will not happen on my watch, and I told you that. So yes, everything that we've updated or replaced, I have on a spreadsheet. So I know when, and look, a lot of this stuff is technology. It's gonna expire, it's gonna go bad, it's gonna need to be replaced or updated, we know this. But I won't wait 10 years and then come back here and tell you we're in a hole again. I have marked down when their end of life is, when those updates need to happen, when the replacements need to happen, and it is spread out over a number of years. So this situation that we were in, that we are slowly climbing out of, actually, that's not fair, we're quickly climbing out of it. That won't ever happen again. And yes, software, no. That software is me, putting it on a spreadsheet so that I can monitor that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Okay, we'll move into our officer reports. Mr. Kerr, or Trustee Kerr?
Not at this time. We're
Trustee
good.
Fowler? Trustee Parker?
Nothing.
Trustee Rousseau? Trustee Edwards?
Senator?
And Trustee Bartholomew?
Oh, yeah, I just have something I'd like to bring up. I had a couple residents ask me if we will be enforcing political sign ordinances this year.
What would that ordinance be?
Well, it would, as far as when signs can be put out,
What is that
Like-
ordinance?
I don't know what the ordinance is, but I know.
Because there
there's-
isn't one.
Okay, well, there's, I guess in Washington, and no earlier than 45 days before an election. In Bruce, no earlier than 60 days before an election.
The Village of Romeo does not have an ordinance as such.
Who doesn't?
We do not.
Okay.
If this board would like to create one, has a interest into that. But as such, unless somebody else can cite one, I'm unknown to a existing ordinance.
I called Washington some years ago, and just asked them, and they said they have recommended times.
Right, but we're in the Village of Romeo, and our ordinances are what we abide by in the village.
Okay.
I didn't know that was
Anybody?
blocking.
So I guess that clears up that concern, because then that person, they just were uninformed. Also, to go to size, there's not a limit. We used to have a limit, because that question has come in, hasn't it, Cindy? There used to be a restriction on 3. There's no more restriction on any number. And the restriction is solely on square footage, which is 12 square feet. Do not exceed that. Per sign? Per sign, with no limit. This
So
is
there's
something,
ordinance of a certain sign being on one part property.
you could have 20 12 square feet signs on your property. That is the ordinance that this council set. If we would like to update that, somebody bring it to the floor.
It was changed, what, 18, 19?
I cannot recall, but it was within the last prior 4 years.
I noticed when we got to the table, there was a letter here. Should this have been read during correspondence or no?
I did not receive it as correspondence.
Okay.
No,
We received it
I
tonight.
emailed that you weren't here, right? This
Oh, I'm
afternoon.
sorry. Okay.
It was probably for me.
All right. Just
Um,
want to make sure we didn't miss it.
Don't have a clerk treasurer. You saw her report there. I'm going to try to keep it quick here. We're already at an hour and a half, you guys, and we've got quite the agenda. So grants. Currently, we are working in all 3 of our grants with Eagle, that lead line, SEMCOG, and our MDOT road work, which is currently going on the east side. In regards to our office clerk building assistant employee, I'm currently reviewing applications. However, to this point, we have almost 20. So I'm trying to fit that in. I would love to be able to get interviews within the next couple weeks, but considering Peach Fest, back to school, and everything else, we're going to see how fast we can get going there. But I will be cutting that off. I'll put an update out there, I think within the next week or so, 2 to 3 weeks. And considering we've already gotten almost 20, I'm not quite sure how many more we need. I had submitted our Headley rollback language to the county, and I have received acknowledgement of the receipt. So our submission will be on, as far as I know, on the November ballot. In review for the cemetery, we had an item last month regarding the retention pond over by the water tower. I had contacted AEW. I literally just got it this afternoon. Their quote came back for the surveying of that so that we could make it official. The quote came back at $4,250. I will execute that this month, and hopefully we can have that officially on for September. In regards to our AT&T and our phone bills, I did receive another past due collection notice this month. However, I was able to trace this back to a previous shutoff request. So I've submitted that. It's been acknowledged. I still do not know where we're at. If that will remove the whole cost. It was $7,000. If it will remove all of it, if it will remove a portion of it, still in limbo of the prior $60,000 one. Again, similar where we had requested for it to be shut off. They're tracking it back to that request date because it was not taken care of, which accrued all that, but I don't know where it was at that point where it started. Still trying to work with AT&T. Are actually kind of hard to get a hold of. Wastewater treatment plant, we did have an emergency purchase. I just want to let the board know about this. Excuse my spectrophotometer is failing and we need it. This attests the ammonia and phosphorus. Al has ordered it. It's a $5,000 part and it should be seen on our next month's bills, just so that we're all aware of that. In regards to our now Reckling Park, just want to give an update that a charrette is planned for September, hoping for September. This is in conjunction with the Village of Romeo and Green Macomb. The tentative date at this point is September 17th. It's not in stone, but we're hoping to gather everybody for that date. So please join us for this open house style collaborative planning event. We're looking for a roaming time of 4 to 6. Drop in, look at the drawing for now. It's kind of like the green space. It's just throwing something out there. Come critique it, rip it apart, say what you wish it looked like or could be added. Also, this is not the only opportunity. There'll be more community involvement. So if you're unable to make it, there's going to be other opportunities. Or as always, feel free to give me a call, send an email if you'd like your comments added. This is the Villages Park, and it's the intent for our collaborative vision to be carried out. Everybody's included. In regards to our uniform contract, I do have more specifics here later, but I just wanted everyone to know that I've started the submission process for insurance. I have submitted that. They've asked for some supporting documentation. Just waiting to hear back on that. In regards to our road work, the update I have for now is south side is, let's say, 99% finished. We do have the portion of Hart Street coming east and just around the corner. Somehow, human error, we missed 2 ADA compliant corners. That's a very imperative, important thing at those corners with the residents coming out of Apple Valley there. So we've paused it there, should be getting that done. It's hard getting that concrete crew back once they leave, especially for not a large job. So I'm hoping within the next couple weeks. I've told them if they can't come this week, forget about it. Next week, don't even come, because should they pour it before all of the people descend, then something gets ruined. That's an added cost and time. So I said, if you can't get it this week, forget about it till beginning of September. Let's see. So all of the south side, phase A on the north is finished. We're heading up to Phase B. Should be finishing that out. I'm trying to remember our conversations. I asked them by next Thursday to stop, well, technically Friday, to stop working. I don't want to see any work over the Saturday, Sunday, Monday holiday. By Friday, we would like it all buttoned up, a orange cone at every single possible hole, all of the driveways with the ramps that need them, everything for walkable. We need it for the parades, the parking. They're on top of it. Again, if anybody has anything that we've missed, call it in to myself or Jerry. He's the on-site supervisor that we hire through HRC. He will get right out there for you. You just need to let us know. That's where that project's at.
So Megan, if I can ask, they seem to like stop for days at a time. Do we know in advance they're gonna do that, or why, or what's?
For instance, today, they didn't let us know until start of day that it's too wet for us to come work. So no. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I want to say last week they had to finish up a project somewhere else. So they did let us know beforehand, these 2 days we won't be there. But sometimes it's literally like today, until our site supervisor got there. Hey, where is everybody? Oh, it's too wet, we're not coming today.
Because it seemed, my home is in the middle of it right now, and I think it's a gift sometimes when I'm not there. But several of the neighbors in the area are like, why is this been sitting here for days? Why aren't they back for days? It seems to be happening more often and for longer periods of time. So I wasn't sure if there was an issue.
Where we're at is in the contractor's head, we're way ahead of schedule. So in their head, they can slow it down. They knew the big push was Southside Peach Fest, and then I also added a little bit extra push for the Phase 1 as Dickinson and the school and all of this stuff starting Peach Fest like right after. So their big push was the focus there, and they've accomplished that. They've accomplished it all ahead of schedule, and they're going, well, we're ahead, so now we can go skirt off and do a few days here and a few days here. The last phase shouldn't be as much. The whole intention with doing all the concrete and the curb was that now that's already done in that phase, literally they have to come in, mill, grade, and put it down. All the curbing, all the concrete's done. The only thing that will be done afterwards would be the lining, which can be done after it's the wearing the final course is put on.
Okay, because Yule in particular isn't happy. They did the grading there, and it's down to the gravel, and it's been a couple of weeks. And so how much longer? They've been driving on dirt and dust for a couple of weeks. But there's also exceptionally large equipment parked, and very large mounds of dirt, and they're not getting as close to the curb as they can, and so it's creating traffic issues. So I've talked to Jerry a few times. He's really trying.
We don't have great staging areas once you get farther, and it is.
Yeah, I get that, but they could get a little closer to the curb potentially, instead of kind of parking, leaving 3 feet between them and the curb.
The equipment overnight?
Oh, the equipment's not for days like that.
No, I'm asking, is that what you're saying, the equipment to be moved closer to the curb?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I've talked to Jerry, but if you could maybe
Yeah,
help.
can reiterate it, and even ask that equipment can see where we can't stage it throughout Peach Fest weekend so that we have more of our streets back for all of the residents, parking, and visitors.
Yeah, because some of it is where they're going to line up for the children's
Yes.
parade.
I explained the whole route, that where we need everything down gates and everything, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. We just, communication. Okay.
Ask you one quick, you talked about the retention pond and the quote that you got in for the engineering. Are they going to look at, like with Eagle and the county, and check with drainage and all that, I'm assuming? Or are they just looking at what it's gonna take to fill it?
They're not even doing that. This is just for us to get a boundary survey so we can make a motion to officially put these boundaries, yeah.
Okay, I thought.
This is not the engineering. No, that's all gonna be a lot more than $4,200.
Yeah, okay. I was like,
This is just the survey to set the boundaries so we can put in an official motion of the meets and bounds and the description. Yeah. I wish. Our committee reports, our Bruce Sewer, we did not meet. We had one, but then we canceled it.
Well, they moved it to next week, and one before, they were requesting another 100,000 now, with hopes and plans for more in the future. I think we just gotta bring it to the council for discussion on that.
I'm still trying to get a hold of the engineers to get an actual review of what we have. It's going to cost money, and I don't know that that's necessarily something the village should incur if somebody else is asking for our toy to play with, per se. And so I need to get that cost.
So we did move, I don't know if I sent it to you, but cancel the move to next Monday.
Next Monday? This coming Monday?
Yeah, the 26th. They wanted us to get past, throw that out there, and then they have a meeting Wednesday.
What time?
6 o'clock. It was just changed. And it did that.
Potentially. No problem. Next, our village DDA pilot committee. Did you guys meet?
We did. We plan on meeting again on September the 11th at 6 p.m. Our meetings have been really good, frequent, good conversation. Danielle is kind of our chair of the subcommittee, so she has a few more organized comments, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief. I know you guys have a lot to do. First, thank you, Andrea, there is no meters. We haven't talked about meters at all, so we're not putting any meters in. And just a reminder, this is a way to be able to enforce the parking on Main Street. We can't currently do that for the 2 hours, so that was a good point, Mike, and Chief can elaborate on that later. One of the things we decided in this last subcommittee was to go with Park Mobile. One of our closer communities, Rochester, uses it. They have a lot of great reviews in using it, so that was good. It does integrate with some enforcement technology through web browser. They can enforce by a plate, so your plate number and the area that you're in. We suggested $1 an hour for the payment. That's pretty standard, though Ferndale is going to $1.50 an hour. Users can pay by texting to Park, scanning a QR code, calling, or using an app, so they don't ever have to swipe a credit card in anything. We'll provide signage. Let's see. We do need to verify ordinance that we have on the books if we need to add anything relative to specific paid parking areas so that citations can be written. A review of public parking was also done as far as counting our actual public parking spots. We have 283 public parking spots. 72 of them would be paid parking, which results in 96% of them being free. Potential revenue is around $52,000 annually. We plan to offer a 15-minute grace period, and then we also plan to include where the signage is, where you would pay, would also be a map to show people where free parking is. So if you didn't want to pay, it'll direct you to where you can go for free parking. We also discussed that it would be from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Discussed the possibility of increasing the rate for Peach Fest or for October, again, to encourage people to move through, open up those spots on Main Street so that more customers can come in and park. We did talk about the potential of a resident pass. So a resident could come in, they could buy 2 passes, and it would allow them to park anywhere. There was an idea thrown out that the DDA would maintain these funds, and then they would also be responsible for maintenance of the parking lot. We just briefly touched on that, so that's something that we really have to dig into a little bit more. The funds would pay for snow plowing, salt, weeding, resurfacing, striping, all of that. Year 1, we would determine a plan for, like, say, the next 5 years. Which parking lots are in dire need, which ones do we need to do right now, and then roll that out on a plan that would, for maintenance. I did get a chance to meet with Chief to discuss any concerns that he had, looking at different platforms that they're looking to use and how that would integrate. So our next steps are to plan a rollout of the project. We talked about sending 1 or 2 EDDMs to the community, explaining why we're doing it, what the funds are going to go for, and then possibly a second one for residents specifically if they want to buy a pass, and then also engage in a social media and print campaign as well. Did I miss anything, Nolan?
That was really good.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, did you have a question? Sorry.
Questions, if you don't mind. Did anyone check with the county about the roads to make sure that we could charge for parking? I know that was brought up at one point.
I don't know that, I didn't specifically do that piece yet. It didn't seem like we had a concern with it, other than making sure that our ordinance could handle it, so we can do that.
Wasn't that brought up at this table that we were, that
I think that was brought up before in the group meeting. I think that was brought up. 'cause I
Yeah, it was the
remember
joint
that.
meeting.
I think because we had talked about, Rochester and these other communities, they don't have any issues with the county.
It's a state road. This is county, so it might be different.
I can look into it.
Yeah, I don't know.
okay. And then you said about 52,000 annually would be a general estimate of income, right? Have you looked at what maintenance would be for the salt, the resurfacing, striping? Would they outweigh each other?
So I have reached out to Tim at DPW to get a cost analysis of how much it costs in general for them to do snow removal and salting. He's very busy with the road project right now, so I didn't push it, but he said he was gonna get that to me. And then we have reached out to some engineering firms, as well as I believe the village has, to get a plan for the parking lots and how much they're going to cost. So it's in the works. I don't have a firm number right now.
Like for the striping and resurfacing, you mean?
Yeah, a whole plan of which parking lots need to be done, what needs to be done with them right now. What can we do now? What do we need to do next year, the year after, and how much that's gonna cost.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll definitely have to supplement with some funds for sure. And the DDA is looking at budgeting for that too.
Okay, thank you.
Danielle, if I could real quick, you said you guys just chose who you were gonna go with. You said there's gonna be no actual physical meter.
Correct.
That will take like a picture or something, so they know when some, how does this all work? How is it enforced?
Yep.
Educate me.
Yeah, no problem. So as a user, if you pull up, there's a QR code. So I could scan the QR code, and then I put my license plate in, and I pay for the amount of time that I want to be there. I can save multiple license plates in there. So for a family, if I wanted to save multiple in there, I could. I could also download the app and use that app here. You can use it in Rochester, any place. On the enforcement side, it would look like a quadrant, let's call it. Let's say it's around Village Park. If it says there should be 10 cars parked there and the police go around and there's 15, 5 of those license plates won't match what's in the system and they can write a citation for that.
So they need to open the app and look?
It's possible. It's possible. I don't have the exact details of once that app is installed or on their web browser, how that will work exactly. But
There's a back end to it somehow.
there's a back end to it, correct?
So how will it know, or how then is the limit enforced? If I go on my app and I pay for the 2-hour maximum, it's getting close to the end, I go on pay for another 2, but I've never actually moved.
Right.
How is it enforceable?
So we actually talked about taking down the 2-hour minimum signs, because we've not enforced that. It's not been anything that we've really even used. And hopefully utilizing this payment, it's going to encourage people to move through and not be parking there all day long. Like Mike had pointed out, building owners, business owners parking there all day long. If they have to pay for it, they might encourage them to go find a free lot.
And if that's a concern too, if we really want cars turning over every 2 hours, we can always surge the pricing for that car after 2 hours in that spot, so they either can move or pay a little bit higher than $1 an hour There's a bunch of different options. This is really just preliminary for us to get an idea of if it's working, how the community perceives it. We just want to capture some revenue and fix, an issue that the DDA's identified
Yeah,
downtown.
and capturing the revenue, I see as being beneficial to, in some extent. But I think that the turnover and the moving of the cars is important.
Yeah.
So was there anything looked at that would be maybe no cost, but be able to monitor how long someone's in place and then issue a fine after the 2 hours, right? If they're gonna stay and break the 2 hour, because currently, I'm being told there's no way to currently monitor,
Right.
because you can't chalk tires, but if there's technology in place that in some communities, it says you've been there more than 2 hours.
You certainly can set what that free time is. We have discussed in the subcommittee that it's 15 minutes. We could make it a half an hour. The idea is we want to generate some revenue. So keeping it a shorter amount of time, if you want to run in and get carry out, 15 minutes to a half hour, you should be able to run and get that, get your cup of coffee and move on. But if people are staying and they're eating, shopping in the antique mall for a while, we can capture some of that revenue.
Do you know of a program that does that captures that without having an enforcement of
Yeah, I mean,
meter?
like Mike was discussing some of the stuff in Royal Oak, Ferndale, I thought Rochester's did.
He was
That-
talking about meters though, so am I missing?
Well, that's what I'm saying, a paid parking system, but that the technology is available to monitor how long a vehicle is there. And if our main concern is to turn over the prime parking, do we really need to capture revenue or money for people parking? I guess I'm getting a little ahead of ourselves, but instead of just enforcing the 2 hour minimum.
Justin, you would think that would be inherent in.
I apologize, this is not public comment.
Yeah, it, technically, we could set that free time limit to be 4 hours, whatever we want it to be.
Yeah, I respect,
Yeah.
but you're saying that this software, this technology cannot then monitor how long someone is there in the same space?
No, it
It
does.
does, you have to, you would have to register your license plate. I've come up here, I've registered my license plate. And if we choose that free time is an hour or 2 hours, it's gonna tell you that. Your free time is an hour or 2 hours. You still have to register your information, you still have to put it in there. And it's gonna remind you, hey, your 2 hours is almost up. And then you can still pay to extend that. There's nothing saying that, you have to move your car at the 2 hour mark.
Okay, so then you'd have to install signs around the village with the QR codes?
Yep, there's about 1 or 2, depending on how long the stretch is on the quadrant, there may be 1 or 2 signs that go on existing like speed limit signs where our 2 hour parking limit sign is now.
Okay. And I had earlier heard that the issue was to get businesses into town and avoid the pilop fee. And
That's
that's
why I
why we
said-
wanted to do paid parking. So now I'm hearing it's to get the traffic moving. So I'm kind of feel like I'm chasing a ball of what's the real issue, because then I've also heard, well, business owners are parking and employees are parking. So I'm not sure I have a real feel of what the
Sure.
real issue is.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that we talked about in the presentation last month was that it is multifaceted. This solution is taking care of multiple issues that we have going on right now in the village. One is the payment in lieu of parking fee. We can start collecting revenue instead of charging the businesses a high payment in lieu of parking fee. The other is moving traffic on Main Street, opening up those spots for customers so that they can pull in and shop our great shops downtown. The other is to fix the parking lots. It is multifaceted. Right now, I understand we don't have the money to fix the parking lots. Let's start collecting some revenue, not just from our residents, but mostly visitors. We have a great walking community. A lot of our residents walk downtown. So we're not gonna be raising their taxes, raising anybody's taxes in the DDA district. The visitors can contribute to this and help us improve our parking lots.
And what parking lots need the repairs?
That's part of this plan to assess what they are. Myself and just walking around Village Park, it's pretty rough over there.
Yeah, I think
I've
I'd
tripped
say
a
more
couple-
so which ones don't.
Yeah.
So this is
Church Street?
Public parking lots you're talking about?
Village owned.
Oh, yeah, Village owned.
Okay.
I would
Yeah.
say just the church, the brand new one would be
Right,
the
that
only
would be
one that
last.
wouldn't. I did, well, you'll see it, it's in here. The only other questionable that might get a little more life out of it would be North Bailey. That one's newer, but there's a whole assessment that needs to be done.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Thank you for your report.
Wait, please come back. I mean, thank you. I mean, we touched on the reconsideration, I guess that's the reason why I basically brought that up, to find out more information, and you definitely touched on just about everything, which is good. How close are you to implementing this parking application here?
You know, I wouldn't be ready to give you an estimate. There's so many pieces that we have to kind of get in place. The big piece was choosing an app that made the most sense for us. And then we're going to start at this next meeting rolling out what that looks like. Realistically, when can we get it installed? Realistically, how long does it take to get the signs? And that type of thing. That would be my next report to you, would be next one.
I appreciate the phone call you and I had earlier.
Mhm.
But you mentioned that the 15 to 20 minute, or 15 to 30 minutes free. So that would be added on top of the existing parking time, and how would somebody do the swipe the app thing if they?
So when you go up to scan the code or call, whichever option, or text that you choose, you're putting in your license plate, the quadrant that you're in, the area that you're in, and then how much time do you need. If you only need 15 minutes or you only need 30 minutes, you can choose that, and then it's free. You're not paying anything. If you know you're going to be there for, let's say, an hour, you're really only paying for 45 minutes because your first 15 minutes are free.
And us that aren't that computer savvy, I mean, swiping in an app, but you did say text here.
Yeah, you can text or you can call, Zach.
So, because I agree with the one gentleman that spoke here is, if it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't have a new phone. I'm still speaking with the Captain Kirk flip phone.
Right.
But, all right, I mean,
Okay.
I appreciate the
Yeah.
conversation which the board had with you, and we can get this meeting on.
Okay.
Thank you for your report. Okay, moving into our first order of business on unfinished, the reconsideration of the vote. You have here, this was a request by trustee Fowler regarding last month's paid parking item. And then I put on there on the cover page, just grabbed a snapshot of the motion so that we could all see what the motion was and the favors.
Yeah, the reason why I asked for this was, and thank you again, Ms. Lee, and board up here for putting out the information, which was, I needed to hear more of it. The conversation regarding the parking app, and especially the gentleman over there speaking as far as the pros and negatives of it. The implementation part is the part that really I'm concerned about, because I like the exploring the park, getting this done, and that's, you provide the information for that, but to get this started, it seems like it's still gonna be a rough start, so basically, you need to get going with it. Is that, can I ask the question directly to Ms. Lee?
Well, right now, we're on the reconsideration of the vote. We're
Okay,
not
so-
doing discussion of the
Okay,
item any longer.
Okay, you provided a lot of the information which I had concerns for, which, thank you. I still would like to see this expressed a little more, have the kinks kicked out, because we're still talking about $1.
Well, there's still a
per hour.
subcommittee that you'll be seeing until the village and DDA pilot is a subcommittee. You'll continue to get reports on this.
All right, well,
I think for me, the motion, if I can interrupt, Zach, is it
Yes.
says to explore and implement. So they essentially have been given full authority to implement without having to come back.
that's the part that I'm a little hesitant on the exploration part. Like I said, I appreciated the conversation just now because it just cleared up a whole bunch of stuff. But the implementation means that that's gonna happen. And I'm still a little foggy in my own mind as far as the exact method of which they're going to use. So, I
Do we have a
understand the part you
motion, do we have a motion to ask for reconsideration of the vote?
I'll make a motion for the reconsideration of the vote.
We have a motion by Fowler to reconsider the vote,
I'll support.
support by Rousseau.
I don't know if, I did have a handful of business owners reach out when they saw this added. One of them, which I was able to print, the owner of Jail Smokehouse had concerns. Zach Hayes at BAMS expressed some concerns, not just with paid meter parking, but any type of additional payment that would be for businesses or anything along the lines without and I think kind of along the lines of Zach saying, a more defined implemented plan that not implemented, but before it's implemented, a plan that's known and how it's going to help solve those problems. And I think some of that was addressed tonight. Eric at Paramount has expressed some concerns. Carl at Vera said he wouldn't be opposed to a meter, but is opposed to any other type of charge to businesses. So, I mean, I'm getting different feedbacks, mostly those that are, well, before this just goes into effect, we want it to be discussed, you want it to be talked to. You know,
Right.
Hear our feedback, and then also, how is it gonna solve the problem before we just implement it? So like I said, I think some of that was addressed, but I
Yeah.
don't think everyone is fully informed or aware of. So I think,
I think the proper discussions are happening and the
Yeah,
steps are being
yeah,
taken.
yeah.
I don't see that.
Clarity tonight.
To be fair, a lot of the questions that you're asking are helpful to us. The concerns that you're hearing from businesses are very much appreciated to be passed along to us. Our subcommittee meetings are open to the public. We'd be happy to engage in those conversations because
many business owners, you know, it's hard for them to get away sometimes to be at
An
a
email's
subcommittee
easy.
meeting and stuff. So, I mean, they reached out, you know, through one of us, and I'm just relaying that.
I'm getting the issues not from business owners, but from residents who appreciate their small town living in their small town, and mixed reviews, not all great, about having to pay to park. So I really think we should consider, if we can, something different for them. But
Well, I think that was part of the reason I asked them to put the 6 month in there, that should we get to the point where this is implemented, we have a review in 6 months, we're gonna know where we're at on this. The room's full of people, angry people who don't want it anymore, but we tried something.
Not to mention, by the time, we're already at 5 months now, and by the time we have a good plan and the ordinances are worked out and the coexistence with the police department, we might only be talking about a month before we have to review this, that it could even be implemented. If that, we might not even have it implemented by then. So we're in the very
My
early
understanding would be
stages.
The review would happen 6 months after it was implemented.
Review in 6 months, 6 months from
Yeah,
when we
I thought we
passed it.
discussed that at the meeting, I have to go back and watch it.
so what percentage of business owners live within the village, do you know?
No.
Could you find that out as part of this?
Not a lot.
I guess,
Does the DDA have any of that information?
We can't hear you in the back, Shelley, can you move that
I-
microphone closer?
Oh, sorry. I asked what percentage of the business owners live within the village limits.
Off the top of my head, it's a small percentage, but I haven't done any factual walking around.
So is there a way to find that out?
We had a motion on the.
yeah, we're gonna discuss.
How does that play in? Because we live here, and if the majority of the business owners don't, and they get to go home, but they don't have to be here with the residents to hear their concerns, or you don't have to pay to go to dinner at night because you don't live here, like, this is the town we live in, and we want to be able to use it.
I'm asking you, but
Yeah.
what does that have to do with the parking?
Because I live here.
Well, hold on,
and I
let's
would
pull
have to
this back
pay-
together, that we're conversing with public, going back and forth. Let's pull this back together. You have your question, you would like us to, or them to
Find
do
out how
some
many
other
business
research
owners
about that?
live
Okay.
within the village. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess to reiterate on Zach's concern, I don't think he's fully opposed to this. I think he just would rather see the plan put into place before free rein is given for implementation.
Correct.
If I'm understanding it correctly. Okay.
And it doesn't sound like they're, have a plan even yet to implement at a point in time. They're still doing research.
So basically, if it's reconsidered, then we take it, just for procedural, I'm trying to talk through it. Reconsideration, we then make another motion that would then maybe eliminate the implementation, but just come back with a plan before it's implemented? Is that what you were looking for, Zach?
Something in the sense of that there to let them proceed at what they're doing, because the information they gave tonight is very informing. But yes, the implementation part, I'd like to see it.
See it before it
Yes,
happens?
see it. Well, you know, 15 to 30 minutes added on
What is
to
it?
the part, I want to see.
From
that.
today, it sounds like we will. There's going to be varying routes of education, every door direct mails,
Yes.
different things. I think we will know.
So for procedural, if we reconsider, put it in that before it's implemented, a plan will be presented. Then approved.
Presented either way.
Currently, it's
I don't
not
see
written
them
that way.
not doing
I don't
that.
see, well,
So
Call for
I
a
think,
vote.
I think it's just more of a,
Yeah.
a wording.
we're already spending.
Are we ready to call for a vote?
What's that?
He has to call for a vote. Are we ready to call for a vote?
Yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Wilson, if you would call for the vote.
Yes. No, wait a minute, I'm sorry. What was the motion again?
To reconsider.
Oh,
Reconsider.
I'm sorry, no.
Edwards,
No,
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Poznanski,
No.
no passes.
Okay, motion fails. Continue on. Our clerk resignation update. Had in here, I did not include the one letter that the council wrote up. I felt that the council knew that letter. I did include in here the letter that I have subsequently sent, however, received, again, another one undeliverable, supposedly in the mail, so sent back today. Today's when I received it. So at that point, when I put out the package, I said, to date, the village has not received any communication from Ms. Trapp, which today we did. I read that communication. Specifically in the letter that I sent asking for village property passwords, I have an example of the village Facebook. Currently, as our Facebook policy states, we are both equal admins. I cannot remove her without a password. Holding the password that she has, there's no way to remove her. So currently, she could jump right on our Facebook, she could give it away and have other people meddling in there. I know Facebook isn't the biggest thing. I have way other bigger concerns here in the world of passwords and such, but that's just an example that we need these items returned. She's not acknowledging or at home to receive our communications, knows the law and would know to turn over items, as I believe a similar letter was sent to the clerk of the past when Christine and Catherine came in. So she understands the need for this. Further in here, I also had, I have FOIA'd Clerk Trapp's, or sorry, Miss Trapp's place of employment, as it is another municipality where FOIA is appropriate. So I did include in here for the council Miss Trapp's acceptance letter of her position. On June 25th is when we received the letter that needing a 3-week medical leave. And if you look on the acceptance letter, Ms. Trapp accepted her new position on June 28th. part of this,
She got paid for the medical leave?
until July 11th when we received a resignation letter. Part of this acceptance, if you look in the second paragraph, is a requirement for a physical, of which I'm assuming was passed due to being able to be employed. So she took a medical leave, yet assumingly, because we cannot see those documents, passed a required physical in that time. These are FOIA documents. I didn't include them all. There are more if you wanted to see. But just wanted to point out to the council and to the people that even though on June 28th, a job was,
Yeah.
she signed to leave the village but did not notify the village till July 11th.
Anything we can do, Mr. Clark?
Well, there are a couple of things you may want to consider. One is whether or not it rises to the level of some type of malfeasance, which is a crime, or misfeasance, which is more of a negligence matter, whether there's an intent to defraud the village. You would have to submit that to the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office to see whether the prosecutor felt that there was probable cause to believe a crime was committed. So you could consider that. You could also consider some type of civil action, I guess, a type of a breach of contract, but there is no contract between the former clerk and the village of Romeo, and there's also no prohibition, I don't believe. There may be in the ordinance that council adopted last year, but I don't believe there's a prohibition prior to that on somebody holding another job. There's no exclusivity to the position. So that would present perhaps an impediment to the village pursuing anything, because when she was hired, she was still the clerk, and she wouldn't be disqualified from being the clerk because she had a job somewhere else. If she stayed and held both jobs, as long as she was doing her job here, the voters would decide the next time around whether it was a good idea for her to have two full-time jobs. So it's murky at best, and it may be worse than murky, but those would be perhaps the recourses immediately at hand to consider. And you could also, although as Mrs. Poznansky's pointed out, her attempts to communicate with Ms. Trapp have not been successful, you could send her a letter saying, in layman's terms, we think you cheated us and we don't appreciate it, and we'd like some of the money back. And I'm not suggesting you do that or advising you to do that. I'm just letting you know that is something you could do, which would probably find its way into the wastebasket, probably with the other communications that Mrs. Poznansky has attempted. And then you also have to, even though we're talking about a public position and public monies, I think it's important to weigh the risk-benefit analysis. You can spend time and effort churning the matter to try to recoup the losses that you feel you may have incurred, and you have to ask yourselves at what cost, in human hours and money you might pay to me to pursue it. So I don't want to suggest that you should go down a rabbit hole, but it's not also separated from other financial concerns, and I don't know if there's an item on the agenda, but and I think there is, with respect to her bond, because there were some penalties the village incurred because of her lack of paying attention or making payments or addressing things on a timely basis. So there may be an ability, depending on the status of her bond and when things were done and what was exactly done, that you may be able to recover funds from the bond. But again, I don't want to send you down an adventurous path with no certainty of outcome.
But the bond part is not venturing too far down the rabbit hole, as you would say.
No, I don't think
That's-
so. I don't think that is at all.
So we can,
So, I guess correct me if I'm wrong and I'm repeating, there's nothing written that says the clerk has X amount of sick days, X amount of vacation days. Clerk took sick time, personal time, whatever it is,
My,
did what she did.
well, my understanding, again, and maybe Mrs. Poznanski, and I don't mean to throw anybody under the bus, or Mrs. Wilson, I'm just talking about practice within the office. It's my understanding that, that Ms. Trapp took, and when I say take, I don't mean inappropriately, but she was allowed or did avail herself of whatever the practice was in the office, whether it's 20 sick days and 4 weeks of vacation. I don't know what the numbers are, but it's my understanding that there was some adherence to whatever the general rules are in the office, but I don't know that as a fact.
I thought there weren't any general rules. I had asked about that, and because they're an elected official,
Right.
there are no rules.
Because it's elected.
Well,
official.
technically, that's correct, that because somebody could be elected and not come in at all and not do their job, and so that's correct. I'm just stating that it was my understanding that there was some adherence to what applied to everybody else, but there may not have been.
But specifically when it comes to holidays, yes, because if the office is closed,
Right. So there
we're
are
not
some-
there.
Right, there are some times that.
Do we track holiday vacation days? No.
Right, everyone just makes up their own, basically.
I think a lot of this, unfortunately, is just water under the bridge. But what I am concerned about is those passwords and things.
Yes.
That's the kind of thing,
And
if
what
she's
ca-
got access to financial accounts. if
Oh, no,
she's
that
got-
was as soon as I received the letter, the first
Okay.
thing I did was call the bank.
But those passwords and things like that is more where I'm concerned that we should have some legal authority to get those back.
I mean, that's our intellectual property, and
Yes.
our retention of that is theft. Is there any more, I mean, if the letters are undeliverable, can she make the argument that she's not getting them for any postal? I mean, how many forms of communication do you have to make before you elevate it to the next level?
There's not a limit or a set number, and oftentimes, and I don't know what was done here, but I know what I will do is send the same letter, the same day, one certified and one ordinary mail. Because sometimes people do not accept their certified mail. They might not know from whom it is, and if you have a post office box, you can look at it and stick it back in the post office box. And so I send them certified and ordinary mail, and the presumption is if the ordinary mail doesn't come back, that it's been delivered. So she may say, well, my cat ate it, or whatever happened to it, but the presumption is if it doesn't come back, ordinary mail, that it's been delivered.
And
What's
that
the next-
continues to be the problem, what's the next step? I mean, do we take?
Well, I can
legal
write,
action?
I can write her a nasty letter. Mrs. Poznanski and I have talked about that, and I can write her a nasty letter, and I'm more than willing to do that. And when I say nasty, I don't mean unprofessional, but saying that these are ours, as Mr. Kerr said, that's intellectual property that's owned by the
Right.
village. And so a letter can be written demanding the return of it. And if not, then I guess you'd have to pursue some type of legal action, either again, going to the prosecutor's office and saying this person in her role has stolen things from the village, if that's in fact what has occurred. I'm not saying it is, but that would be the premise. Or you can start civil litigation against her, asking that a judge order her to return the village's property.
I would just be concerned that she would be able to access Facebook and do all kinds of like anti-Semitic type things on our Facebook. You know, we couldn't stop it.
At the end of the day, I could shut it down, but it's still the fact that it's out there, you have to, the work that you have to redo. If it got to that point, I would just shut down the page.
I think the nasty letter's a good plan. I mean, the 10 weeks she pulled one over on us and got double paid. God bless her, but that might not be worth the fight. In my
No, I don't
opinion,
think it
but-
is.
But the
Unfortunately-
password stuff is serious and frustrating.
Yes.
So maybe the nasty letter is a good next method.
I would make a motion to ask Mr. Clark to draft a professional letter sent to the past clerk in the manner in which he described,
Support.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Care. Just have Mr. Clark draft and send a letter to Ms. Strapp. All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have any opposed or none opposed? Okay, moving into clerk appointment. After our last meeting, when we had our special meeting, we did not have anyone step forward. Since that time, we have had a letter of interest come in. I have put it in your packet. Mr. Lucero is here in the audience. If the board would so wish to have him come speak or discussion, what would we like? Mr. Lucero.
Let him come up.
Good evening, everyone.
Does anybody have any specific questions? We all have the letter here. Would you like, we could read it. If you want to just discuss, what would you like?
Well,
This is
reading the letter, I
unprecedented.
kind of thought it looked pretty professional, and I mean, depending on the chemistry that you and him have and the other people in the office, I think it'd be potentially something to move forward on.
Do you intend to put your application in for the write-in ballot?
I, actually, after trustee Fowler, or not Fowler, sorry, trustee Parker and I spoke today, I had already intended on it, but I had some extra time today, so I already done that.
You already done.
So I'm already in. The only thing I have to do is contact, Macomb County, because Washington didn't know if I had to, reach out to Macomb County in their elections over, some finance paperwork, if I have to sign or certify that I'm not raising any money or anything. They didn't think I had to, but that's the only issue they raised. So I'll be checking into that tomorrow.
Okay.
I think the answer is no. I think the answer to that question is no.
Raise any money?
There's nothing, because you're not raising money, and
Yeah.
I kind of fall in that same boat.
Yeah.
I think you still have to fill out.
You do.
Something
You
that
have
says
to
you're not.
create-
I might have to sign an affidavit saying that I
It's a
don't.
one-page,
The waiver,
it's
yeah.
not
Reporting
forms
waiver.
after form after form.
But on the flip side, the answer is yes, that you do plan to run as a write-in candidate for the
Yes,
remainder of the
I
term.
don't think it benefits anybody, least of all the village, if I was here for 2 months and
Yeah.
just left again and left you guys where you guys are right now. So, yeah, I fully intend on running as a write-in.
And Mr. Lucero, you mentioned being a small business owner. What
Yes.
type of business is that?
Entertainment company. I've ran it for over 10 years. We service weddings, corporate events, stuff like that. Prior to that, I was in finance. So, as I said in my letter, I believe that that gives me the experience that this job needs with regards to scheduling and budgeting and all that. So, yeah.
Do you see any maybe time commitment issues with, I'm assuming you're still gonna continue running your business?
No, we have decided to shut down the business.
Okay.
So there's no time commitment issues right there. So yeah, I'm diving headfirst and I'm all in.
Are you a people type person as far as customer service?
It's the second bullet point.
So Mr. Fowler,
I read it, but I mean.
to answer that question, the line of work that I've been in and going back to finance as well, you had to be a people person. That's, relationships were key, that's how I made my money. I had to make sure that expectations were met. Not only met, but identified and met. And I know this job is largely based on the expectations of the residents and ensuring that their expectations are met. And, you know, because the village and the residents at the end of the day, unless I give it my all, they're gonna be the ones that are hurt.
Correct.
So, I am a people person. The last 10 years prove it, so.
And, thank you for that part.
Yeah.
The administrative structure underneath our past clerk, allow these sub-departments that were under her just to operate at their own. You would definitely make sure that things would go through you in order for those to pass or approved, correct?
Yes, I mean, there is a bit of autonomy you have to let those underneath you have, but you still have to oversee their work to make sure that the work is getting done, that it is complete. I think that is, by and large, the issue. I don't want to badmouth the predecessor at all, and I'm not here to do that.
Oh, go ahead.
But I think that is at the center of this is really time management, again, going back to whether or not expectations were met, identified and met. And that's from the top down. You have to identify, your expectations, and it trickles down, and then you have to stay on top of it. You have to make sure that, and if you're not sitting there and pushing the ball forward, then, as you guys have seen, the house of cards comes down.
Yeah, she allowed an awful lot of looking the other way as far as with departments.
Right.
Applications, so if you're that person, then the residents would be well served if you keep on the ball and answer their wishes.
Jamie, if you get the appointment and then potentially the write-in in the future, what is your vision? Is it, what am I gonna do and what can I get accomplished in 4 years? Or is it more, how can I set up the village for success in the future when I may not be here?
I think, that, and you and I spoke about that a little bit earlier, and if I had to, I think there's a space where both those possibilities live in, right? I think legacy planning is a big thing. You want to plan for the future. As a small business owner, you plan for your 1 year, your 2 year, your 5 year, your 10 year, right? I don't see why you wouldn't do that in this position, because at the end of the day, the village is a business. You have to project out what you're going to do. And if I'm not here, in 2 years, you don't know what's going to happen. But at least the next person comes in, has a roadmap, and sees what was being done. But not just that, I think taking a lead from chief, you have to come in and you have to assess everything too, and kind of, stick your fingers in the holes that are taking on water, right? You have to plug up the holes quickly, and then take a real hard look and an assessment, so that, again, going back, you can identify those expectations and make sure they're met. But also, long term, you have to have, your goals set forth so that you can hit benchmarks. Because if you don't know what you're looking at, if you don't have a target, then you're just kind of aimlessly going through it, and that's when things fall through the cracks. That's when bills go unpaid, and schedules get missed, and things lapse. So it takes a little bit of both, assessing everything and kind of doing a trauma assessment, but also trying to plan for the future as well, so that when I'm not here, and you guys may or may not be here, it's not a hard reset when the next clerk comes in. It's just a continuation. And I think that's what's been lacking in this position.
I have 3 quick questions.
Yeah.
Would you keep the other appointments that you have on other boards or commissions?
Actually, that's a good question, because I didn't know if I, as clerk, if I could keep the ZBA appointment.
I don't think you can.
I didn't think so either, but I didn't know.
To step off of the ZBA.
She was on the planning.
The planning, I'm sorry.
No, I'm on ZBA.
Correct, I'm saying,
Oh, yeah.
but his
Oh,
example
yeah, yeah.
is a different board, but
Yeah.
it might be a similar issue, and if we can look into it, and if that was decision, would you step down?
If I had to step down, yes.
Yeah.
I would step down.
But if you didn't have to, would you?
If I didn't have to, I would stay on. I like helping the community in whatever way I can.
Okay.
And, yeah, I would stay on, as long as it wasn't to the detriment of the position of clerk.
And what experience do you have in supervising other people?
Again, I ran a rather large entertainment company. At one point, we had, prior to COVID, we had, upwards of 20 photo booth attendants, 5 photographers, 8 DJs. So I was responsible for scheduling them, being the intermediary between the client and the service provider, our employees, and then making sure that I was bridging the gap once the service provider took over from me, making sure, and going back to Mr. Fowler's point, staying on top of them, making sure that they were still communicating with the client, making sure that their expectations were met and that, it didn't blow up. Because in that industry, especially in the bridal industry, I mean, one bad event, brides talk. You guys talk about Facebook. Brides talk, and it could capsize a company in that industry very, very quickly. So, yeah.
Jamie, would you be, she had one.
Oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
one more last one.
Go ahead, sorry.
So you've obviously heard that there's no set rule on vacation, sick, holiday, even FMLA.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to exist.
So as long as I can work from Hawaii, I'm good.
So, okay, that's.
Yeah, sweet.
So what would be your standard for yourself without any supervision and this carte blanche of time off as long as you get your job done? How do you think you would handle that?
Again, it goes back to scheduling and time management. There's a standard that I think the residents, being a resident myself, that the residents have and expect from this position. And communication, right? If I'm not gonna be in the office, making sure that the residents know I won't be in the office. But also communicating to them that these are the hours that I'm there, please come in. These are the hours of business. And just, I can't hit on it enough, is just schedule. Make sure that everything is scheduled, because if you're not scheduling, if you're not truly managing your time correctly, then, one little thing, one little task not done today, one day it doesn't matter. But over 10 days, now you have 10 tasks that you haven't done spread across the board. And I go back to what I said previously, that doesn't hurt anybody but the village and the residents. And being a resident myself, I guess I look at it a little different, that what is the standard that I want to see in that position as well, So I strive to be a better version, a better person, a better version of myself and a better person every single day. And I think that's what this position needs, is someone who strives to be better and do better for the resident and the village every single day they're there. So.
And you understand it is 40 hours a week?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Would you be willing to work with the cemetery board as a sexton? Is that what it's called? I don't think Catherine's in
That
the
would
job
be,
anymore, does she?
the cemetery board is reconsidering, essentially sexton means supervisor, of which they have, that's the caretaker of the cemetery, so they're reconsidering if they even need both terms. There are certain duties of which the clerk does perform for the cemetery board. You're not the chair, you're the clerk to the board, you take the minutes, you put the packets together. Anybody that comes in to purchase plots when we have them, you sell them in receipt.
Yeah, as long as it's in the purview of the clerk right now, I'm signing up for it. I guess if it's above and beyond, that's a discussion we can have. I'm open to it, but, I think I am the kind of guy that goes above and beyond in anything I do. But I think there's you can find yourself in troubled waters if you do that too much, if you take on too much. And then you're right back where you were, because things are still not getting done because you're scattered all over the place and spread too thin.
Jimmy, and I'm gonna ask a question, I already know the answer, we talked earlier, just so that everyone can hear. Some of our ordinances, mainly with the marijuana businesses, would prevent our clerk or some elected officials from being part of those. And I know in the past, Jamie had voiced a lot of opinions and suggestions with those. So, Jamie, do you currently have any ties with any businesses within the village limits?
So the way the law is written, if you are employed by a municipality, you can't hold more than 10% holdings in the marijuana industry. I currently hold 0. We've divested out of that a number of years back. So rest assured, I have no special interest in that. I'm completely out of that industry.
Any other business in the village that you're invested in?
Other than my volunteer work, but I mean, I'm with the Lions and that's it.
For the next 80 days, pay attention to the residents, and I think you'll have no problem getting writing.
Does somebody want to make a motion?
Make a motion to appoint Jamie Lucerno up until the November 2024 election, or whenever that person that wins takes office.
I'm trying to
which
think
would
of the
be
term.
November
It's the 20th.
or the next regular scheduled meeting is close to that date as possible. I think that's.
Till the swearing in, till the swearing in of the next clerk, whoever it might be.
Yeah, and I think that has to happen by November 20th, or the closest meeting till then. Is
When
I
the
think
votes,
how
when the votes are certified. Mine ended up wonky because the votes took so long with all the extended. Anyways.
Support.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Care to appoint Mr. Lucero as village clerk in the interim of the November 5th election. Could you,
Sorry, one more question. When would that be effective by? Like, as soon as tomorrow? Do we want to set a date for like the next Monday or?
upon swearing in would be my,
Okay.
do you want to,
Should
unless
I
you want to
word-
nail it down farther than that?
That's fine, I'm good.
Was it?
Grab a pen.
Well, I will raise, and Ms. Poznansky and I have spoken about this. The Wednesday before Beach Fest, so the 28th, because I am with the Lions, and that is a big undertaking of the Lions. Through Tuesday the 10th, I'm available on Tuesday the 10th. So I can be available for a week. I can be in there for a week, and then I need a little bit of time off because I'm after Peach Fest. I'm also walking across the state with Neighbors United to raise funds for firefighters with cancer. So I'm walking 140 miles across the state. So from the 5th to the 9th, I will be, on the 9th, I'll be in Grand Rapids. I mean, I could be home the next day, the 9th, and I could, or the 10th, no, the 9th.
If you give me our vote, I'd like to see you in that office.
What was that?
Well, he can, he just has to take
I
a
understand
few
the
days
law.
here.
So you're willing to get sworn in tomorrow and
Yes.
start tomorrow?
Dip his toe in the water, yes. And I said, we've been without a clerk for this long, take
Maybe
you a
you
few
guys wanna
days
go
to
there
go walk
after.
across the state.
Yeah,
We'll
might as well get
we'll be
something
okay,
started
yes.
and then
We'll,
take the
we'll
time.
manage, yes.
Yeah.
And then start his unlimited vacation right away.
Mrs. Wilson, could you,
The walk's covered then, right?
could you please call the roll?
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Poznansky.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Take care of residents.
Yes, we are running, it is about 9:40, we have 20 minutes, somebody
I'll make
please.
a motion to extend the meeting till 10:30.
Ooh.
Support.
Okay, motion by Parker to extend the meeting till 10:30, support by Edwards. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yay.
None of, oh, is that in opposition?
Yes.
Oh, one opposed, Care opposes to extend. Okay, Aramark Vestis update. Have this in here for you guys. A couple of things to point out that I learned since the last meeting. Aramark and Vestis is not the only time that this occurred. It also occurred with Cintas, in which I have that supporting documentation here. Ms. Trapp ended the Cintas contract early and paid out $2,699.73. And also, previously, we had, here, I made you guys copies. I had stated that the payout for Aramark was $11,700. I have found further emails where the actual total of what makes sense. You see emails in here between myself and Aramark trying to get them to tell me, what do we owe? They said, oh, actually, since you want verification, you owe nothing. And if you read the letter between us, I say, well, that's not good enough. I need some more support. She says, it looks like it's been taken care of. What now I understand by that is we actually paid out $14,500 for this contract. So just so we all are clear, I have submitted these numbers of $14,500 for the Aramark contract and the almost $3,000 for Cintas in that to the insurance. Those are the numbers I have asked for. Is there any more? Anybody need any more of an update than that? Okay. If you have questions, let me know. Our Rattel Street parcel. I have the communication in there for you. I did let them, they did refuse the first amount given by our engineers of what they, the $2,862. I did make them aware of the up to $3,000. They did not take that offer also. And I have the email in here of which they assess the property or the parcel themselves, and they think I'm trying to find the spot, at the very least, it's worth $32,508 or upwards of $45,000, $45,511.20. So to this point, the road work is happening, things are being done. We don't have time. I don't have time. I don't feel comfortable going back and forth. At this point, I feel like this is where we're at. If the council would like to take it as takings, we do have the opportunity to do that. However, where we're at in the road project, I don't know if this particular parcel will be able to be addressed. So at the moment, the game plan that we can do best, the best we can do at the moment is everything but that parcel. And then I've talked with Mr. Clark about eminent domain, should this council wish to go that way. Mr. Clark, could you speak on the process of that?
Yes, you do have the ability to acquire the property by eminent domain. There's a process for that. Michigan is what is called a quick take state, and that means that the only challenge to eminent domain really anymore is value. The issue used to be, do you need the parcel? And then if you need it, how much is it worth? In Michigan, as long as there's a stated public purpose, as long as it's not for a bribe, as long as it's not for something illegal, if this body were to state the public purpose is we need the property for the road, you would sue the property owner in the Macomb County Circuit Court, asking a judge to award the property to the village, and in that process you have to provide the property owner with your good faith estimate of the value, and if the property owner accepts it, which has not been done so far, that ends it. If the property owner says no, it's worth a lot more, as so far the property owner has, then at some point a judge would decide how much money the property owner gets for the parcel taken by the village. And so the acquisition of the property is not really an issue, it's the value. And if you look at the plat map for the village, I don't know what happened here, but because it predates probably even my birth, and that goes back a long time. But if you look at the plat, the Rattel Street is shown on the plat, and this particular lot, which is on the southeast corner, it shows part of that lot going into Rattel Street. But somehow either nobody paid attention to it and Rattel Street was put in, and that portion of the lot was paved, or it could have even been, if you get into the weeds on this, I think a member of the Downey family owns that property on the corner. And Eleanor Downey, who used used to own that home worked in a village office. And so it's even possible that the clerk then, probably Norm Engel, said, hey, Eleanor, we're gonna pave Rattel Street, is that okay? And she could have said yes. I mean, you don't know how it happened, because if you look at the plat and then see where Rattel Street is, it doesn't make sense. So, my recommendation is, if you want to pursue a taking of the property, certainly you can do it, but for the moment, just don't pave that part. If whoever lives there, if the property owner says, this is mine and I don't want you on my property, well, then don't pave it. I guess the property owner would have to deal with the other residents on Rattel Street who may not be so thrilled about it, but again, you don't have the ability to there's no self-help possession of the property. As a municipality, you can condemn it and seek to acquire it by condemnation, but absent that, you really don't have much of a recourse.
So basically, just let the other residents put the pressure on the.
Well,
Okay. If we don't do anything, we don't pay the current right now, they still technically, to our knowledge, own the
Well,
property. Is it gonna create an issue if they say, we don't want you on it, us maintaining and then plowing and taking care of the rest of the road past that point? Can
Well,
we
it
even
could.
get an asphalt truck down there without going on their property?
You may not be able to. I don't know what the width is from the north end of their property to the other side of Rattel. I don't think it's very wide. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that measures.
It's only about 9, I believe it's 9 feet.
Very narrow, I know. And the village might have another argument, and that is acquiring the property by adverse possession. That the village has owned, the buzzwords are, has used the property openly, notoriously, to the denial of all others. There's some nice legal language in there. And the period of time is 15 years continuously, uninterrupted, regardless of who owns the property. If the person claiming the adverse possession has the 15 years, the property could have changed hands 2 or 3 times. It doesn't matter on the other side of the equation. And so the village may have an argument that it already owns the property by adverse possession, which is an argument I'm glad to assert on behalf of the village, but if it's opposed, you're talking about litigation. And so it's possible, I guess you could, and I haven't looked at this, but I guess it's possible the village could initiate a condemnation action and also claim title to the property by adverse possession. That would, I suppose, be a plausibly maintained position on behalf of the village.
And that's not unheard of in the village, isn't that what the Lions did with that alley? They said if we didn't.
If we didn't, yeah.
Yeah,
We
if
didn't
we
give it to
didn't,
them,
that's what
they
they were
would-
gonna claim, so it's not an unusual occurrence or anything that couldn't happen.
We recently had a couple alleys that cut through the Lions Field.
Right, but
And
you
they-
vacated those
They
alleys.
came and asked us to vacate,
Right.
and basically said if we didn't, they would use that process, saying that they've been maintaining them
Well,
for years.
but the problem for them would have been, until recently, you cannot adversely possess against a municipality. So I'm not sure the Lions,
I gotcha.
I never looked into
I don't
it,
remember them
but
saying
I'm
that.
very skeptical that the Lions had persuasive adverse possession argument.
My point being, it's not unheard of for
Oh, no,
those
no,
types of things
it's,
to happen.
no, it's not.
I'd make a motion to ask President Poznanski to offer the homeowner in question $5,000 for the piece. If denied, have Mark move forward with the process as he sees fit.
$5,000?
We offered him 3.
Yeah. I'd give them that same offer.
That's my motion.
Do we think that going through the legal process might incur more?
Do we have support
money?
for the motion?
I'll support.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Do you think that going the legal route, we might incur more of a cost than maybe we bump it up to $7,000 or $8,000? I just don't know how much we're gonna pay chasing a potentially unsuccessful reward. If a judge rules that, $35,000 is fair, then we just paid Mark to go down to court and now we have to pay him more money too. Do you think maybe a little bit more of a lucrative offer?
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, the first step that you or the second last step that you said you might do first, then go to this, that wouldn't require us paying them, correct?
You have to, under Michigan law, if you start a condemnation action, you have to pay or offer to pay the amount that you claim is the fair market value of the property. So let's just make up numbers here. Let's say that if the village, and one of the things, the engineer has given some numbers, which are fine, I don't question the numbers. I don't know if the engineer is a qualified real estate appraiser, because you need somebody who has the qualifications to do that. It's not as simple math as, maybe it should be, but, and the property owner has just kind of reduced it to this mathematical, well, it's so much per square feet or foot, we have this many square feet, and so here's the number. It's not quite that simple. It has to be appraised. And you offer and write a check for the appraised values. So let's say it comes in at 3,000, you pay them the 3, they say, no, it's worth 40, so we're fighting over $37,000. And as Mr. Kerr said, a judge could say, oh yeah, it's worth that. But they have to come up with their appraisal too. It's not just dueling mathematicians.
Or could we continue to just take care of the parcel as we are, do it all, and wait to see what they do?
Leave it alone.
Right.
So you're saying just pave it?
Nope.
And
We,
leave it.
just leave it.
Leave it alone.
And then if we can't get our vehicles or the asphalt truck down there.
We've been getting them done
Well,
for years.
but-
Right, we
if
continue
they
to
make
use
a
it like it,
point on it now, then we're stuck.
Well, first of all, I believe that they would have to, and I'm not saying they wouldn't do this, but they would have to physically go out there and cordon off the property in the street. Now,
Become the Auburn Hills, Rochester Hills.
You got Rusty House.
What was it, Kinkin Road? They dropped the pile of dirt and said, hey, if you're not gonna help maintain the road, we're gonna close it.
right, so, but they can't close the part of the road that is indisputably the village's. So, I mean, they can make life difficult for themselves and for their neighbors if you do nothing. And I don't, human nature being what it is, I can't predict what a person might do. It seems somewhat ironic, to me anyway, that a property owner would want to pinch that part of the road because I believe their access to their garage is off of Rattel Street. So that you get into a little bit of severing your nose to spite your face, but again, human nature being what it is, I don't know what people will do.
Well, with the thought of condemnation, you have to offer to pay fair value. We've already offered 3, they've declined. If we offer the 5, we're saying now we're going above and beyond. We have gone above and beyond, and if they decline, that sets up the case to be a little bit stronger with either eminent domain or the adverse possession, because not only we offered what we found to be fair market, but we've offered more, and you've even turned that down. So it strengthens our case.
Well, I'm not sure, I understand your point, and I'm not gonna disagree with it, but I'm not sure that it strengthens the case so much, because the fight is gonna be over value, and a judge is gonna decide its value, and so to try to tease out your argument on that, if the village offers 5, and again, making up numbers here, which I don't like to do, but if the village offers 5 and they claim it's worth 40, they're gonna have to prove it's worth 40, and a judge isn't gonna say, well, I'm gonna knock them down a little bit because the village tried really hard to get it at a much lower price. It's just gonna be based on the valuation of the appraisers that is put forth to the judge, and the judge is gonna decide whose appraiser is better than another, and probably before you get to that, you're gonna have a number of meetings where either the judge or a facilitator or somebody is gonna try to bang heads and get people to resolve it. So I don't want to encourage you to just keep throwing money at it. I don't think I mean, if you want to condemn it, let's go ahead and,
I think regardless of how the process ends up happening, we can offer them a 5, move on, let's make writing what needs to be
So we
made.
got a
Let's
motion.
make it official, let's put it in writing, and if it goes back, and they come back and say it's worth 75,000, and that's what we decide we need to do, that's what we need to do, and then it's right.
But you have more pressure from the residents that actually live on that street. I mean, we don't have to plow the street. If this person that actually holds their ground, then they're gonna get pressure from
If there's no documentation showing an easement or any exchange of that property to the village,
well, that may not be true. It appears on the face of it, but to my knowledge, there's never been a title search done of that property.
We did.
You did one? Okay. And so then, whatever the results of the,
It is as it is, as
Okay.
we see it.
So there's about 9 feet clearance past the.
To the north.
And then it widens up towards the.
And then it opens right out to the full, was it
And I gotta
20?
be honest.
It's wide street.
Is 9 feet wide enough to get a car through?
A car,
I don't remember.
a car,
One
yes,
side.
a plow.
Sure.
not the big.
Because there are
Close, it's tight.
just a few residents on that little street there that dead ends. And,
And I've heard from every one of them.
Do nothing.
and what do they want?
They want their road done. And so that's where I said, fine, then we will at least do your portion, because they are paying the bond, they are paying the tax. Because the initial was to discount that street wholly. And that we could work this out, maybe get it wrapped into the next phase, just like we have for the rest of Prospect and whatnot. But the residents are like, well, why not? If you're here, why not do what's in front of our driveways and our houses, and they are paying. So, okay, fine, then we'll do what we can and what we know is ours.
Will they give a temporary easement to allow?
No, they did not want, they were not interested in that.
Okay.
That was the first communication.
So I suspect at least 2 of the homeowners on that street, and that's kind of where I was going with this, would not be too disappointed if part of that access to that street was taken away, because that street becomes a serious issue when school is in session. And there are several residents on that street who have said, can't we just block this road off? Because it's bad. Parents park on both sides, they're backing, they're twisting, they're turning, the kids are trying to walk through there. They're up on the people's lawns, and they have said, but we don't want the parents parking down here. Now, you can't stop them. However, my thinking is if there's one lane in and then it widens, they might be happy that that eliminates that issue.
They've also said that they think it will be unsightly to have the one patch not of old and the rest of it new. That was an opinion of a resident.
It's not our.
That's not our
We address the motion? We got a motion and a second.
Maybe the fire department needs to assess it, and say viable, no parking, fire lane.
You repeat the motion.
To offer the homeowners at, 300 North Bailey, $5,000 for the piece of property we are looking to acquire. If they decline, to have Mark or Mr. Clerk move forward with legal action in the best process manner he sees fit.
My one further suggestion if I could point out, I'm trying to look at the exact number. I believe we asked for 12 feet, and that is because they said they would like to have a curb. Technically, we only need 10 feet. That is all. So the numbers would be adjusted a little bit. We did 12 by 150, but I would really only do 10 by 150 because the extra 2 feet is what they wanted a curb. I wouldn't include a curb in that part.
The recommended
They-
price, 2,300
They
at that square foot.
don't want to work with us on the piece.
They
of
want us to
road,
purchase
but
the
they want us to put a
parcel.
curb in on their property.
We would extend it that extra 2 feet. That would be included in the parcel. That would now be ours, and we would put in the curb.
If they're willing to accept the 10 grand, or 5 grand, I would say, do the whole thing.
For 1,800 square feet.
So the motion is the 5 grand with the total, including the curb, the footage for the curb,
Yes.
and put in the curb.
But is that curb in our original budget that we had for the roads?
No.
So that's above and beyond.
Yes, a lot of the curb, you'll see at the end, there was a lot of curb extra that was not included, and there's still curb that could have been included.
There's not a curb there currently?
No.
Okay, then, okay, no, they did.
But we are putting in the curb behind it, though, for the other parcel that does not have curb,
Why?
because the residents asked for it.
But it wasn't in our original plan?
Nope, that was also missed by our engineering.
Well, if we're doing it, then we have to do it. Yeah, include the curb.
It's where all the water goes when it floods, that it finds that open curb spot. This would be the time to put in the curb. Just like doing the alleys that were stone. If you're gonna do it, now is the time to do it.
Oh, we planned for those, right?
The alleys, yes.
Yeah, no, we can't do for one and not the other.
Does it include curb?
The curb includes.
It
Yeah,
does?
yes, it does.
Yeah, these are a lot of the decisions that have to be made on the fly during things and. Mhm. Okay, we have a motion by Parker, we had support by Edwards, correct?
Yep.
For the $5,000, it does include the full parcel with the curb. Do you want to call the roll, please?
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Care,
No.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
No.
Poznanski,
No.
and it's 4 noes.
I'd like to make a motion to leave it as it is. Just leave it alone.
Leave it alone for now?
Leave it alone for
Support.
now.
Support?
Okay.
We have a motion by Fowler, support by Bartholomew to table the issue, essentially.
Quick discussion, is that leave Rattel alone, or leave that section alone and try to then navigate around to finish the rest of it?
Well, currently, we don't have any prices for doing the curb. Is that what I understood? For the remainder of the houses behind that property?
They're done.
Well,
There
it's
is-
done on the north side, I noticed.
Right, there will be the portion that, behind this parcel, that does not have curb and what you would, is an open green space parcel. Curb is coming,
So in front of Rusty Howe's house and the next two houses behind it,
correct,
the curbs will be done.
correct. But there still will not, we will not touch this parcel, there will not be no curb added.
Okay, the
That's right.
parcel, okay. Forget it. As long as we have the residents taken care of behind that property.
I mean, you have your motion. If I were to make my own, I'd still give them the last opt-out to offer them $5,000 and then do nothing. They'd be aware that it's their last opt-out, and then at least the neighbors can all pick at them and say, hey, you had one last chance. At least we're giving them one more opportunity before we leave it like it is.
I'll withdraw my motion. Is that okay with you, Bart?
I'll make a motion to offer them $5,000, and if they say no, then do nothing.
Second. I didn't want to do that.
Essentially what you did?
Well, is that $5,000 for the whole thing?
Yeah, the 1,800 square feet.
That, mine was basically the same thing.
I don't want to pursue legal action if they say
Okay.
no. I just
Okay.
then we'll leave it like that.
Do you want the curb in there?
Yeah, that's fine. We can't do half the curb and then stop right at their property. I mean, we should do it right regardless. If it's not, if somebody new buys that house, I don't want to, and not intentionally wrong do them, but kinda. So
So
no.
why don't we put a sidewalk in while we're at it? My point being, the kids come to and from school there, and there's no sidewalk there. So they're walking in the road where the cars are, which is part of the problem.
It's currently staked out for the, is it staked out? I thought I
I
said
don't
it's
know, but if
staked
we're gonna do it right,
We have 25 minutes.
it's seriously in sidewalks down
I
there.
understand. My motion's gonna stand as it is, but I understand your point.
I withdrew my motion.
Motion by Care, support by
Sidewalk
Fowler.
would be a separate discussion, I would feel, because this is just one of the property in question on the street. So we can
Could you
put
please
some-
call the roll? Is there any more discussion?
Bartholomew,
Can you read the motion back, please?
the motion by Nolan was to offer the homeowners $5,000 for payment and which included the curb.
Mhm.
Support by Fowler.
And then do nothing if they did not.
Yeah, do nothing if it's.
That was,
Offer them $5,000 for it. If they don't, they
Offer
don't take
them
any
$5,000.
action.
Dead deal. Yep.
it wasn't anything but that.
Correct.
Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
No.
Rosso,
Yes.
Osnansky,
Yes. I will send them an email this week, see if they accept it. Next is our forensic audit update. We've gotten to the point with Plant Moran where they want a price amount to continue going forward. I've asked them, in talking to them, to narrow down the scope into the pattern that we seem to see is anything that the clerk was allowed to spend at the clerk's spending threshold, so $3,000 or less. Really, nothing ever got to 3. It was always 28, 26. So they've printed out everything, the vendors for the last, I think it was 6 years. I've looked through all the vendors, anything that might be questionable, they're looking at multiple payments to the same vendor in small increments. But we're getting to the point where they're going to pass it off into their forensic team, and they want to know, what is our appetite to spend? How much are we spending here? So this is where you have your,
I thought we were looking for them to give us some type of estimate on what it would cost.
that's what this is. This is like kind of an à la carte estimate. Which way would you like it to go? It will cost, there's a few different costs in here.
So they want to know.
Matt, I think you're correct. It's gone, water to the bridge.
Yeah, I think we're just
Yes.
throwing good money after bad.
Just get rid of them.
I don't know, but I didn't, originally, I think when we discussed looking into this, I didn't think it was just the clerk, I think it was the finances, since she took office in general, to see what else had been brushed away or hidden away. But are we past the point for 6 years ago? Can we still go back on bonds, and are we gonna be able to recoup any of this?
I think Mr. Clark answered that about the bonds earlier, that we could, some of those funds.
Yeah, you'd have to submit a claim and see what the response is from, I think the MML has the bonding, if I'm
Correct.
not mistaken.
And there's certain time limits from the time that the issue is known. And if that time has lapsed, then, I mean, I can submit it all we want, but they're gonna say, well, if you knew about it 2 years ago and you're just submitting it now, water under the bridge.
Yep. Screwed.
But we're just learning about a lot of this now, correct?
And that is part of it, and that is where I have, what I have submitted. I have mentioned the dishonesty, which is a coverable cause under, and that even though we knew about, because I also did submit for the fire late fee, that although we did know about it at a certain time when we asked the clerk to verify that, she told us that it was not coverable. So the dishonesty in that, we would have turned it in at the time, but she was dishonest, so the time frame is now once we knew that it could actually be submitted. So that is how I've submitted that one.
So have we received anything back at all?
Nope, waiting on them to review or see if they want any more documents.
How much do you think you've submitted so far? That's financially, you know?
The fire, the 37.1,
Mhm.
the 14.5, the 36, the $3,700, all of that for the uniform.
And you said they were looking into stuff, did they feel that there was more questionable stuff that could bring upon more cost to us that could be recovered?
What do you mean?
You said that they were looking into some emails or some trails of multiple.
They have not looked at any emails. That is something that would be in the proposal, and that is one of the most time-consuming things. That's what I'm doing. And it is, and again, and like I just found more. It's a matter of time and looking through it.
That's kind of what I'm thinking with this, is are they doing part could they be doing part of what you're doing to ease that off of you?
They could, and we have to pay for it.
Yeah, but it might, I guess I'm looking to you to say, is that worth it? What do you think?
Truthfully, at this point, I don't think it's, I feel like I've seen at least what's left.
You got us some.
Was anything deleted? Were things taken? I don't know. There was a point in time while the clerk was on sick leave that she did come into the office and take items from her office, all of which I can see are her personal items, but was anything else removed? I don't know. Was anything deleted off the computer? I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of her personal information on the computer, a lot of locked files.
Okay, so if we don't proceed with this, do you feel you're done, or, and if things pop up, you'll follow up on them, or?
That is more of where I'm at. At this point, we've already lost, how much have we lost? Not only, think about what we lost in all of the actions, but in the time that we've paid a salary, we've lost a lot of money. And I don't know spending this much after the fact is really going to do anything. Do I see anything nefarious at this point? I don't. But I see it more of, oops, let me cover up my tracks, I know I messed up.
Right.
And then spend the people's money.
Right. And we can't claim any of her salary or anything like that, especially with the newest information you have.
No idea how I would claim that.
For the dishonesty of being on medical leave or whatever. But I guess my point being, if you feel it's smoothing out, you know, you're not being overwhelmed and finding more things, and you've submitted some claims.
Or maybe the new clerk will be able to fresh eyes on a situation.
Yeah.
Maybe he will see something.
Yeah, just let it go for now then.
Yep, and as things pop up, we can address them. But seriously, spending, I mean, some of this is, yeah, we could just throw away another $25,000 to find another $5,000.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to get what you've already submitted if we could,
Mhm.
and move on, and then if there's a chance of getting wages or anything for the dishonesty with that time frame, but I'm good.
Okay.
This is going to.
We took out G, clerk and president bond update from Shelley.
Well, I think you've kind of,
I have not submitted anything to the president. Is there something that you guys were wanting for the president?
My thought when we originally talked about the forensic audit and the president, my understanding is that we were not looking just into the clerk's position, we were looking into the finances of the village since she took office, so that encompassed the president and anyone else in the office at that point. I thought that that's what we were looking at getting.
Most of my thought in that is that the clerk was kind of running the show at times.
I understand,
And that there was
looking
not
at
much
what I
oversight.
Look at it all, and if something came up, and then also with the president's bond, we were questioning, was it the curb, or not the curb, but the approaches, ramps, whatever, that were poured, and she gave authorization without council approval.
And I guess we could submit that, but we need numbers of what our property loss would be. So then we're gonna spend some more money on engineering to figure out what our property loss is.
Yeah, I thought that was.
To hope
the next
that-
step. I thought we were looking into that.
Mike came and spoke with us. He didn't give us exact numbers. He said it would be a lot. He came and gave a presentation.
Yeah, so we didn't go any further with that to get numbers.
Nope, didn't spend any more money.
I guess, it's still an issue that needs to be addressed at some point.
Well, and hopefully, I know that the DDA does have plans and has a hope to do a sidewalk or downtown project. Could be something that's gonna have to be wrapped in there.
But the bond is an issue that if we knew about it now and we waited, got pricing later, we can then not go back in 2 years or whenever the DDA pulls the trigger on that, we have numbers. Are we waiting too long? to submit that?
I would think yes.
So we're just gonna cover losses then?
At this point,
Yeah.
unfortunately, not really what I want to do, but it's,
It's financially the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd say-
financially.
There's
but
morals and
leaving-
finances and-
Leaving a hazard
Right,
is an issue.
we still have to correct it.
I don't think there's an intention to not to. I think we would all like to.
Yeah.
Moving into our flagpole ordinance, there was the update made. I don't recall what that was, maybe about the flag size over the industrial district or something to that extent.
Yeah, which I don't see the change made in this draft. So I don't know if we can even vote on this.
Motion to table flagpole ordinance?
Second?
And Cindy, so we had discussed at this table changing the industrial footage to 50, and then Karen was going to look into the appropriate size flag that would go on a 50-foot pole, because we didn't know at this table. It
Yeah.
remains as office, commercial, industrial 30-foot. So nothing was changed in this.
So you sent me, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll ask her.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the proposed tree board ordinance.
So the tree board, has had a couple of really good meetings. They've had a lot of positive energy, and they're really looking at bringing, a professional view to things and really engaging with professionals and really, upping the game of the tree board and what they have to contribute. So this, you have the proposed ordinance in your packet. I brought one that's highlighted in yellow that shows a few of the changes. Some of it was just a little bit of wording. It talked about how the tree board would issue permits. Well, they don't issue permits. So some of that's been removed, or replaced with consulting with, or in conjunction with, so that they don't have to get stuck. And on the very last page, you see the addendum is, plants that are not recommended for planting, and that's part of what you heard in our presentation today. So they'd like that to be part of the ordinance, so if people look it up, they see what's recommended to not plant and why, just to give the community some education, and maybe some guidance.
I'll make a motion to accept the proposed updated tree ordinance.
Support?
When we update an ordinance, and Craig, does this have to go before a public hearing or anything of that nature, Mark?
No.
Mr. Clark, I'm sorry. Okay.
No, you're allowed to act on it tonight at the table.
Beautiful.
My own, oh, wait, sorry, we have a motion by Bartholomew. Do we have support?
Yes.
Support by Edwards. My only thought is in the removal of E. This whole 2-week time frame, all this stuff. Basically that the village,
Which E, wait,
under
Prior to
removal.
of any public tree.
And a no person or entity, including the Romeo Village DPW. My concern is, when we have to, public safety, health, like, and to tell us that we can't take care of our own trees when we have to, I have no problem. I love the tree board's assistance. Now when the items come in, I pass them on to the chair. You guys have knowledge and experience. Don't want to cut down trees that don't need to be cut down. That's never our intent. But say there's a storm, say there's extenuating circumstances, we will be taking care of the village property and safety.
Yes, and we talked about that, and they have every intention of making sure that's covered. We actually just talked about it again today. In case of an emergency, I thought somewhere in here there would be an in case of an emergency. I confirmed with 2 of the members today that, yes, they want it in here. They didn't
Yeah,
realize
I think
it
that would be
wasn't.
appropriate, that in general,
So-
when we have 2 weeks and we have time to do all the proper procedure, absolutely no problem. But when it comes to health and safety, it will be done.
Well, and I think part of their concern is they wanted to work with what defines health and safety, because someone could walk up and go, I think that tree's gonna fall tomorrow just because I think it is. And that's kind of what they're trying to avoid. If it fell, if it's creaking, if it's windy, whatever, you know, they certainly don't
Yes,
want to
storm.
interfere in that, yeah. They don't want to interfere with that. So they have every intent of building something, and I think there was also a little bit of a discussion of getting Tim's input. And I don't think that's been successful yet. So,
Nate, would you be willing to withdraw?
Quite busy.
Until that language is
Sure.
drafted?
Yes.
And we can
So
table.
we can table this?
mhm.
So I withdraw my motion?
Okay, we'll table that.
Just get the language back, please.
Um, Parks and Rec draft lease proposal, I did point out the changes that were hoped for, or anyway, the changes that were made. Suggested, they are asking this just be a first working with them, that they're not actually just giving this to us. I'm sure if we approved it, they'd be happy with that. But they do recognize there might need to be some back and forth here. So the few updates are organization name and address, term of lease in section 2. I think to the village, that's the most important part that would be updated here. Currently, it's a 99-year lease with a lot of years left. They are suggesting that be changed to, I thought it was 5 years.
Yeah, 5.
Would we be okay with tabling this?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, let's table it for now. The SEMCOG planning grant proposal, this is the grant that we were awarded. SEMCOG offered a grant considering, something I've asked the planning commission and been trying to work on since day one is asset management, planning. So we received the grant with the $40,000. Last month, we approved the match of the $77,260. This is a proposal of how that would be used. This is where the parking lots come in. The assessment, this has to do with the assessment of the parking lots. I also did include in here, because I figured while it is a la carte though, that while we were looking at them all, we do, wastewater has theirs that needs to be done. So while we were doing some work, group it all in there. So you can see that in there. They talk about the public meetings that we would have, doing the asset inventory. They mentioned that if we did choose to add into this money the sidewalk, then obviously we would have less in other places. I would suggest that we don't add that portion in there. The downtown sidewalk is what they're specifically referring to.
Do you need a motion for something?
Yes, if we want to accept this and spend this money in this way. So we have the kickoff meeting, public meeting, asset inventory, CIP. Then they come do the limited field condition assessment, and then they draft the report totaling the cost of the $40,000.
And that would include the downtown sidewalks, you said?
No, it would
not.
If we did, there is a section in here, if we did that, it would be, do we all remember, and I know not all of us were here, but the SAW grant with the wastewater treatment plant and the asset management and the asset inventory for wastewater? We've never done that for First Street iron removal. We haven't done that for our other assets. As we've seen currently, the one computer screen that went down, that was almost $30,000. Then literally, no sooner did we replace that, the next one went. So the next focus needs to be the same sort of inventory done at iron removal, which is important. This is what we drink. This is what goes into our homes. So I'm trying to remember all the different ones. Trying to find the sidewalk portion. She has, for example, a sidewalk inspection form will be developed for a review of the DDA sidewalks, which can in the future be explored to review all other sidewalks in the village.
Which page are you on?
The last one.
Okay, because the one before the last does include DDA.
She says, as noted above, HRC provided a proposal for planning and development of parking lot plans under a separate proposal. It is anticipated that will not be paid for out of this grant. It is determined that the village would like to use grant funds for that work. We would anticipate eliminating the limited condition assessment at the village buildings, iron removal plant, and sidewalks in the DDA. So that it would just be that schedule on the project cost, the page before.
So a review of them. I guess I'm not following you.
Well, there would also be the limited field assessment in the report developed for.
I just see the sidewalks in the DDA, something the DDA could address, so if we can do it without that, I think that'd be great.
It just allows us to spread the dollars. We can't use DDA funds to do an asset, to help with asset CIP over iron removal. So why not use these funds that the village needs for what we can use them for? And when it comes to sidewalks, split that in the future with them, or have them do it themselves.
I'll make a motion to spend the money, the $40,000, as described in the Hubble-Roth and Clark report on page 3 of 5.
We have a motion by Edwards.
Support.
Support by Bartholomew. So on the last page, you'll see if under the project schedule, you see if this is done, we proceed, there's a kickoff meeting, project scope, public meeting, asset inventory, CIP, field assessment, draft report. This is what would be included.
And then their monthly reports would be included in our packets?
I don't know, either that, it says submit,
Because it'll be
I don't know if they
submitted by
would
the
submit it or come do it themselves. Either way, you're gonna get a report.
Okay.
We have 3 minutes.
I'll make a motion to extend the meeting.
45?
Oh, no, we already had a motion on the table, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you already,
Yeah,
you made
I'm
the motion till
sorry.
10:30.
Oh, no, there's a motion already on the table.
Yeah, Matt made the motion, Bartholomew support. Could you please call the roll?
Quickly, I will. Bartholomew,
Yes.
Edwards,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Rosso,
Yes.
Poznanski.
Yes. Okay, it seems that we are at the extended,
Well,
unless
let's
somebody,
extend- I'll make a motion to extend until we're done. Let's just get it done.
we have a motion by Parker to extend until we are done with all of our business.
Second?
Support by Bartholomew, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
We have 3 opposed, Care, Fowler, and Edwards.
So we gotta get stuff done.
Because we got another 45 minutes here.
I'm sleeping right now.
Well,
Okay, the
some of us
next
do have to work.
is our wastewater treatment plant, generator install. This is something that I sent you guys after.
Beating dead horses.
It was well needed. The quote came in at $313,264.23. This was not budgeted in this year, as we did not have these numbers at the time of building the budget. Essentially, this is a wastewater treatment plant spending and will eventually be worked into the rates. I reached out to our rate consultant, John Kasor. He didn't have enough information as of today. I wanted to know, well, what would this predict? If we put this into the rates next year, what does that fluctuate the rates as? Because for wastewater, the only things we actually budgeted for this year was $90,000 for the driveway, almost 62,000 for the MDOT sewer rehab, and then just over 77,000 for any of the work that needed to be done in conjunction with the streets. So this was not budgeted, however, this is imperative. We have a very old generator, that is what we're relying on until this gets hooked up. So once that fails, it fails and we're done.
Can we postpone the driveway to put the funds towards this?
Exactly.
You could? I mean, that's only 90 of the 313.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't have it, I'm just saying it's not in the, it wasn't budgeted in that capital outlay for that place. And that down the road, if we do pull from general to pay for this now, it gets worked into the rates for next year, and so it will be recouped.
What were the other two categories? Thank you.
And then the streets, do you know how much they've spent of the 77?
I do not.
So I know this came in late, but I'm sure, I don't know, if we looked into if Bruce would be responsible for their percentage of this. So I would assume that would be for maintenance and upkeep.
24, is it Matt, 24.5%, I think, the township.
I think that's correct, yes, 24.9 maybe, somewhere right in there.
Yes?
So it reduces us more even.
Yes, but at the outset, we spent, yes, that's not realized till the end of the year.
Right.
Yes. Do we have a motion?
We're gonna do the 90,000, we're gonna take away the 90,000 for the driveway? It's gonna happen either way, so.
Yeah, take the,
So I guess I'll make a motion to install the generator at $313,000, but offset it by not doing the driveway of the $90,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Edwards, support by Fowler. All in favor? Aye. Do we have any opposed? We have none opposed.
I know this is over the limit, I should have declared before we voted.
And
but-
didn't we just discuss this for a half hour between 8:30 and 9 o'clock?
What, the generator?
This prospect property.
The, generator, I did reach out to several companies, and this was the only one that did send anything back, so I was going to verify that.
We have the Prospect Street
We
property.
have grievance up next.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, where are we?
Grievance PD.
We added that on.
Oh, I apologize. Let me find it. Somewhere. Aha. So we continue to, move towards arbitration with Mr. Priest. If you remember, we all offered some sort of amount that was not acceptable. We're at the point where, for the amount that I don't remember, it's between less than $4,000 would be the payout that they think they are entitled to. By the time we pay the arbitrator, Mr. Clark, go through the motions, possibly lose, and still have to pay at least a portion, because we have at least acknowledged some of it. I've asked Mark to see what he could negotiate. Let's just, again, it's one of those things where really don't want to, but in the long run, we're gonna spend more money. So Mr. Priest came back with, he would like these $1,778.76.
Make a motion to pay the $1,778.76.
Support?
We have a motion by Parker, support by Edwards. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nolan says no. I wish I didn't have to. Where am I at now? Prospect Street property?
Prospect.
Okay. This was requested by trustee Parker. Would like to talk about green space.
So I did catch wind that both parties were coming, different options, different things for the space. Just wanted to kind of have a discussion and clarify what I would misinformation I think a lot of people have, that the village is fully supporting the GSOPs and the green space, 100%, that's the only option that we are supporting. I believe the only motion that was made was by trustee Rousseau to consider the purchase of all or part of the property if the GSOPs committee raised the funds. And I've heard it addressed people to people, from the group to the school board, that this board is fully in support of what they're doing, and that has never been made a motion, that has never been put out there, and I feel a lot of other people feel that we're pushing this as the village, and I just wanted to make it very clear that that's not the motion that was made, and we don't. I mean, we clearly saw there's other options and other people interested, and I don't think we need to be in the position to deter people from coming in thinking we're trying to stiff arm and push this sole project, because that's not what we did, and we have no control over what the school does and who they sell it to. So just, that was basically it, and wanted to get that out there so that everyone that's not here anymore.
Yeah, I would add to it, it is zoned, we all know it's zoned R1. Green space is allowed there with a special land use. Either of the proposed projects we saw today would require that. It's not our property. It belongs to the school. Whoever they sell it to, then we will start working to do what needs to be done. Submitting proposals and permits and all the things. I support everybody trying to do what they want. Moving to the police equipment. I'm not going to read this. I would have. I hope you all read it. Chief did a very good explanation, laid it all out very nicely. You have all of the detailed quotes here. Essentially, we get all new equipment, 20 grand. Where's the total? I want to say it ends up being just under 20, isn't it 20 grand a year? Because there's no benefit to paying the lump sum. It's non-interest bearing, so why not sit on our money, pay over time, accrue our interest off of it, and then just the cameras, for instance, we get replacements at certain amount of time, we can put an extension on there.
So up front, it's 31, and then, yeah.
So we're not gonna be paying longer than this equipment will last, are we? Like, we can pay it off.
Well, the whole point would be that we're paying for equipment, and essentially by the time, some of it, I shouldn't say that. If you read the body cameras, they get replaced, the life of them gets replaced because they do wear out. But there will be a point where, essentially, we're gonna need to do this again. It's not like your
Right.
taser's gonna wear out,
Right, but my question being, has it been timed so that we're not paying on the first set of body cameras when we're already ordering a second set, now we're paying for 2 sets?
No, essentially, yeah, that's what the 20 grand, or the average cost is. If we pay that,
Chief, I'm sorry, could you come up, just so everyone can hear? I'm sorry.
The second body camera is provided as a part of the plan. It just shows up. Get rid of the old ones, the new ones arrive in the mail at the 2.5-year point.
Okay.
So that, they're just factored into the total 5-year cost, the payment plan.
Okay, all right, I just didn't wanna be paying for equipment we don't have, and then more showing up, but I see what you're saying now, so thank you.
Yep.
Motion to accept this police equipment.
well, hold on, because we need to make sure what we're going with here. So, at the end, if we're gonna take the whole bundle,
Was your motion gonna be for the whole thing, Nathan?
Yes.
Chief, what's the yearly cost for the Axon bundle?
That's what I can't find now.
I have to look at my,
Here.
my proposal was to purchase all three pieces of equipment from the same company, Axon. Axon is the only company that makes Taser. They are the proprietary manufacturers of that product. Can't get them anywhere else. They also happen to make body camera and in-car cameras, which are equipment that we have now that are well beyond end of life. Some of them are, well, they're all failing. All the body cameras are failing. At least one of the in-car cameras has failed. It's done. So every single piece of the equipment you have, including the tasers, are beyond end of life. I thought it was in the 6,000-ish range per
I
year
know,
over
and I'm
the
not
course of
seeing
5
it.
years.
Yeah, but that's just the one item.
The new cameras, yeah.
I'm looking for the total.
Hold on, I'll find it.
Yeah, I thought
I thought it was
Is it the 75,027?
$15,000, yeah.
All right, so is it on the first page of the email where it discusses the Axon body camera? Oh, it's just body cameras again, isn't it?
Right, so you would get the 5 years at
The 65,
Correct.
$15,005 per year.
And then the tasers would be 44,
and then the other part is 84.
or, yeah.
Do some quick math. 65, 78, 04, 84, 76, 40.
75,027
So that is it.
was the,
That's the total lump sum, right?
right.
Were we looking at doing the payment, or no? Or the total lump sum still?
No, the intent was to,
Pay 15,000
Per year.
I suggested the 5-year payment plan as it's interest-free.
Yeah.
Leave
Right.
money in an interest-bearing account.
and then, where's that number? That was
Same page.
That was the
it's
number
right-
I had in my
It's on
head.
the,
Right below, it says 15,000.
Yeah, but when you add up the totals, the first one here talks about the 9 annex body worn cameras, 6578. And then the next one talks about 4 in-car fleet cameras at 8427. And then we go down to 8 annex taser units at, what did I get here, 44, 28, 67. And then this last option, 10-year option. Oh, that's the 10-year.
Yeah, so the divided by 5 is $15,005.04. So do we have a motion to accept the Axon bundle in total of the $75,027? But
Actually, I think that number is incorrect. I think it's
Yeah, it's 19.
97, 170, 36 for a 5-year payment plan of 19, 43407.
Yeah, that's what,
I didn't see that.
19, yeah, that's what I got.
It's on page 2, midway.
That's what I was looking at. I was just adding them up to make sure it was right, yeah.
page 2 of what?
Of the email, your email's on the front, page 2.
Yeah.
Right before it gets to the 10-year option, it talks about the total one-time purchase of 97, or the 5-year budget
Okay,
interest
I
rate.
knew it was here somewhere. I was
Yeah.
thinking 20.
So,
Go ahead and make that motion, Justin.
okay, I'll make a motion to go with the Annex Enterprise bundle for the tasers, body camera, in-car cameras for the 5-year budgeted interest repayment of $19,434.07
Per year.
per year.
Support.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Care. Could you please call the roll?
Yes.
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 Yes. We have our complete distribution systems material inventory, commonly known as the CDSMI. This is an engineering proposal of essentially a couple of years ago, or it's more than a couple of years ago, Flint water crisis really perpetuated. Eagle started and the state started putting down mandates of knowing what's in your community, the water lines. We're at the point where this is due in October and we need assistance. And when working at it, apparently it was not pertinent in the last administration. I'm just kind of coming aware of it. I thought the grant that we did helped address this. The grant that we did helps address if we find lead or looking into the lead. It doesn't help just cover the mandate. So,
So this is an unfunded mandate from the state?
yeah.
So does HRC feel they can meet the August 16th deadline?
Well, it's October,
I'm sorry.
and yes and no. The state has said, turn in something. We will have something. Will it be the fully completed? I don't know. We are very close. It will be a lot less if we don't have their assistance, I can tell you that. And that there is, at this point in time, no repercussions should you not fulfill the requirement. However, I feel that if we don't turn in something, there will be they'll create something. They're expecting everyone to turn something
If
in.
we don't use HRC, what is do we have another option?
I don't know what you would do.
And we have the funds somewhere to pay for this?
Somewhere.
I'll make a motion to approve
Again,
HRC.
this is the water system. It affects water rates. It's something that needs to be done in the system. It's not something that was planned, but it will affect the water rates in the future.
Can we pay for it out of our general fund?
At this point in time, that might be exactly where it's coming from.
Yeah, okay.
And anything that's unrestricted in our general, that's what it would cover. But then we would move this into our, or if you didn't want to affect the rates and we're good with, then we don't put it back in there.
This has to be done how often again?
No, once you do it and you verify that there is no lead, essentially this is gonna be a ginormous spreadsheet of every house with multiple verification points that there is no lead. So once we verify that, we don't have to verify that we don't have lead in it ever again.
So I'll make a motion to approve our HRC's proposal for $23,400 for the complete distribution system material inventory to be paid for on the general fund and not affect the water rates.
Support.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Carey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We don't have any opposed. Okay.
HRC's gonna be paid off.
I know. Now, I apologize. This is the parking lot engineering proposal. There's all the different grants and the different things. Now we're getting into the parking lot. As you can see, it covers, the last page has a map. The last couple pages have the map. If we don't want to do the wastewater treatment plant, we could take that one out, or we could do it now and have the information prepared for that when we do choose that the engineering or this initial assessment would be done. That's up to you
I'd say
guys.
pull it out because by the time we may get to it, that could all change.
Well, yes and no.
Yeah, I mean, if it's-
Um,
depending on how long you wait. What needs to be done.
So essentially, if you look at if you take that out, because it's put in here à la carte, if you look at the DDA lots, we're looking at $141,440. And this is just the initial items not included. The proposal does not include detailed design for stormwater improvements to meet the requirements of the Macomb County design standards. If these are identified as being needed, HRC will provide an amendment to this proposal for that task. Construction engineering is not included in this proposal. Once the project is designed and bid, a separate proposal will be provided for that work. The cost estimates provided in task 1 will include an estimate for construction engineering so that the village can understand the cost impacts of the work. So essentially, this first is to just get us, what will this cost? What is the scope of the project? What does it look like? That's how much we have to spend just to get that.
Wild.
I know, and so does that make your meter app?
You're gonna have to charge a little bit more.
Because this is coming out of taxpayer dollars.
Right.
And this is just to assess what we have, to even then figure out how much will it cost to fix it, and then design and pay to have it fixed. My intent with this is to ask the DDA to share in this cost.
Before we make a motion to approve, can we get that feedback?
Sure. At the end of the day, though, it needs to be done. You all see the condition of our parking lots. If we don't do this, what's our plan?
Gravel.
It practically is.
Tim would be happy, right? We always say put them back to dirt.
I'm just throwing it out there. I see what you're saying. Yes, it would be nice to know what, if anything, they would be willing to share with us, but at the end of the day, these parking lots need to be assessed and they need to be redone.
Especially if these are DDA parking lots, then DDA should be helping us fund these.
I have asked that if it's possible, in specifically the southwest with some of the islands, if it's possible to redesign it to get any more sort of any spaces, that we redesign it. Other than that, everything is just
Pretty
fixing.
straightforward
Yes.
now, though, unfortunately, other than maybe the,
But even then, the islands have the buckling with the tree, it needs to be redone. So if we're already gonna rip it out and redo it, look and see if there's a different way to configure
How
it.
many islands affect the village parking?
Well, you have the one, like I said, in the southwest, to me,
Yeah,
that's the
but
biggest.
How many of the islands? Is
You
it
also-
just the one? Because
we
the
have the
second
one in the
isn't-
no-
isn't DDA, correct?
You have North Bailey has some islands, but theirs is not
No, I'm
like
saying in
that.
quadrant.
Oh, in that quad?
Yeah,
Southwest.
You've got the one island, and then the next one divides from the private, right? That's not ours.
Yeah, there's two islands.
Yeah, the second island past that is not ours.
Well, but the agreement has been that in the village maintaining it, we get the use of it. So if the village didn't want to maintain it anymore, did we
absolutely right.
want to give up this parking then?
no.
Okay. That's-
No,
No, I think you're absolutely
I
right.
was just to be clarified, because that we continue to stripe,
Can
maintain.
we change the lay of it, of the island, and change it if it's not ours? We're maintaining, yes.
Give them
I think before we look at doing that, we might have to get.
You might want to talk to them and make sure.
Agreement from the
yeah.
association. or
Yeah,
whatever
and they're
we're
gonna
calling
look
it.
at that, they could come back and say, absolutely not, it has to be the same way. That's just part of it, while you're looking at it, see if there's a way to reconfigure it for a couple more spaces, let us know.
Do we have to do this right now? Can we,
No, you can do it whenever you want, but trying to, the village is in, need of some upkeep, to say the least.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I motion
Do
we
we have a
table it
table?
so we know what the roads are gonna cost us and we're done with that project.
And look at cost sharing with the
DDA?
DDA.
Absolutely. Cost sharing with DDA.
Okay.
Okay.
Support?
Lastly, we have our TMF, our engineering proposal for technical, managerial, and financial support for the lead line replacement grant. So essentially, again, the grant that we had, we will need assistance from HRC to execute it, is the, I guess, the best way to say. Keep track of everything, do the billing, turn in the appropriate forms when necessary, Trying to find the sentence in here that basically says any of that though can be, it's reimbursable by the grant. So even the I think we spent $5,000 in applying for this through engineering, that is recoupable through the grant. That was not something we had to spend. It's right here. So HRC was previously approved for the grant application work, which is considered grant eligible and is fully reimbursable. The cost allocated in the grant to that service is estimated at $4,910. The contractor cost for doing exterior verifications is also considered grant eligible and is fully reimbursable. The cost allocated in the grant to that service is estimated at $174,800.
So we just need a motion to accept this and move on, huh?
Basically, we're getting 330 and we're paying them 150.
In the truthfully, to be completely honest, the hope is that we don't need to touch it at all.
Yeah.
The hope is that we don't find lead and we don't have to to search and replace and that we're good.
Right.
But hey, we have this here, should we get there.
Make a motion to move forward with the professional engineering proposal from HRC for 154,300.
Support.
We have a motion by Parker, support by Care. All in favor? Aye.
It's on you this week.
Make a motion
He's not happy.
to adjourn. Second.
We have a motion by Parker at 10:56, support by Fowler. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.